Data cultivation. I test longevity in the Temple of the Five Elements. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51. Backer can be seen from Lee Siki's law enforcement attitude last time. That group of people will not listen to any of your reasons. As long as you dare to violate the sect rules, they will arrest you. It will be a bit difficult to get out of the hands of those people. If the matter gets out of hand, this middle-grade spirit stone will not be in his hands. There is no way to reason with that group of people. And looking at the current situation, Luo Yan can get this middle-grade spirit stone with water attribute at a relatively low price. Therefore, he specially changed into the Taoist robe of Muling Fin. The identity of an outer disciple is still quite intimidating in the eyes of ordinary disciples. After all, he came for the spirit stone, not to fight. I will help you beat them up and drive them away. How about you give me this middle-grade spirit stone in exchange for the market price? Luo Yan took the middle-grade spirit stone in his hand, turned his head and said to Yang Zhao with a smile. Yang Zhao, who fell to the ground, was stunned when he heard this, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Although he didn't know this outer sect senior brother, judging from his curiosity about the spirit stone and the fact that he held the middle-grade spirit stone firmly in his hand, there was no room for him to refuse. It felt like it was settled. No need, senior brother, let them go. Since you are interested in this spirit stone, I will give it to you. After Yang Zhao heard Yang Ji's explanation, he no longer blamed him. After all, anyone would be suspicious of such a thing. After being beaten, Yang Zhao also figured it out. If it weren't for his assumptions, Yang Ji wouldn't have misunderstood. He should have discovered that he was special since he was a child. Luo Yan waved to the three people next to him, motioning them to leave quickly. At this time, Yang Ji and the others didn't bother to wipe the cold sweat from their foreheads, and smiled at this strange outer sect senior brother. Then they bowed and fled at a rapid speed. Looking at this boy who was about the same age as him, who could still face it calmly after being bullied, Luo Yan couldn't help but have a hint of admiration in his eyes. He couldn't calmly forgive others after being beaten. His original intention of getting a bargain faded instantly. It wasn't a particularly rare thing. If you want, you can exchange it at any time in the merit hall. Besides, if what Yang Zhao just said was true, those things would automatically run to his arms. This kind of lucky European emperor couldn't be judged by common sense at all. People favored by God, for such a small advantage to make enemies. It's not worth it. It's just a few spirit stones. Thinking of this, Luo Yan took out 100 spirit stones from the storage bag, and then took 10 spirit stones back. The exchange rate of medium-grade spirit stones is about 100. I helped you drive away the people who bullied you, so I will charge you 10 spirit stones as a fee. There may be a premium of several spirit stones. I am not sure about the details. Just count it as my fee for helping you. You count the remaining 90 spirit stones. Yang Zhao looked at the spirit stones handed over by this handsome outer sect senior brother, and waved his hand quickly. No. Since this medium-grade spirit stone is useful to you, take it. Luo Yan put away the medium-grade spirit stone and threw the rest of the spirit stones to him. It's just an equal exchange. This is what you should do. You don't have to do this. Luo Yan did not choose not to give it because of Yang Zhao's refusal. He did not bully him because of his higher cultivation level. He did not choose to deliberately keep this medium-grade spirit stone. Looking at the inadvertent behavior of this outer sect senior brother, Yang Zhao could not help but have a better impression of him. Let alone the favor of saving him, just the phrase of equal exchange, which did not need to be taken seriously, made him curious. Brother, you should have been listening in for a while. Do you think I was wrong? I just treated him as a friend, so I brought him along. I never thought that it would have the opposite effect. Just as Luo Yan was pacing and preparing to leave, Yang Zhao suddenly asked. He thought about it, and with a casual move, the wooden stick on the ground flew into his hand. Luo Yan first held the wooden stick horizontally and asked him, what shape is this? Long. Yang Zhao was a little uncertain. Luo Yan pointed the wooden stick at him again and gently pointed at the top. What shape is this again? Round. This time, Yang Zhao was very sure. Do you understand? Starting from different points, you naturally look at things from different angles. You are right to say that this stick is round, and you are also right to say that it is long. Just like the conflict between the two of you. In the same place, with the same behavior, it is true that he gained nothing, and it is also true that you gained a lot. So, is right or wrong important? Ignoring Yang Zhao, who was entangled in his thoughts, Luo Yan shook his head and walked back slowly. Luo Yan wanted to use this water-attributed spiritual stone to experiment with something. If he remembered correctly, the origin of spiritual stones was specially recorded in the Kangwu geography. The earth veins interact with the spiritual energy in the air to form a cycle, gradually forming a stable spiritual environment. After a long period of periodic flow of the earth veins, some high-purity spiritual energy will merge with the earth veins to form a crystal. Most of them are translucent with a glassy or greasy luster. This is a spiritual stone. The essence of a spiritual stone is a combination of high-concentration spiritual power and earth veins. In simple terms, it is just a stone containing spiritual energy. However, due to the density of spiritual energy in the air, the time buried underground, etc., some stones contain more spiritual energy. So there are low-grade, medium-grade, high-grade, and top-grade spiritual stones. Luo Yan thought that since this spiritual stone is an aggregate of spiritual energy, is it possible to get spiritual stones in reverse through some means? For example, is it possible to get spiritual stones by compressing spiritual energy? Luo Yan was very curious about this idea that suddenly popped up in his mind. While thinking, he slowly walked back. There were heavy footsteps behind him, and Luo Yan stopped. "Do you have anything else to do?" Yang Zhao, who was following behind him, quickly ran forward with an embarrassed look on his face. "I want to ask my senior brother for a small favor." Yang Zhao handed over all the spiritual stones that Luo Yan had just given him. "Can I borrow your name?" Senior brother may not know that new disciples are easily bullied if they always go alone. Yang Zhao scratched his head, looking very embarrassed. If he had an outer sect senior brother protecting him, what happened today would not have happened. In order to avoid similar things from happening again next time, he chose to get close to this outer sect senior brother who seemed easier to talk to. Moreover, after what happened today, he and Yang Ji had completely torn their faces apart. In order to avoid being troubled again in the future, Yang Zhao set his sights on this outer sect disciple. Chapter 52 The Life of Ordinary Disciples. The newly initiated disciples, because their cultivation is still at a low level, all live together. Over time, conflicts are easy to arise. For example, some people like to practice magic in the quiet night, which makes a lot of noise. At night, most disciples rest or meditate. Some people make a lot of noise, even if they don't mean to. They should know that it will affect others. How can other disciples practice? Although the courtyards where ordinary disciples live are equipped with soundproof formations, the operation of the formations requires spirit stones to maintain. In the first year, the sect will open the formations for free in order to let the new disciples focus on the practice. From the second year onwards, the simple soundproof formation needs to pay for spirit stones. Few ordinary disciples open the soundproof formation in the courtyard for quietness. Even the consumption of the lowest level formation is 2 spirit stones per month. The rewards for the D-level tasks are not generous. Unless under special circumstances, almost no one is willing to spend the wrong spirit stones to maintain a useless soundproof formation. This is not a formation like the gathering spirit formation that is more popular among disciples. When some people make a loud noise at night without paying attention to others' opinions, naturally others will not stand it. We are all cultivators, and no one will indulge anyone. The rule of the sect is, as long as you don't rob others' things or deliberately beat people to serious injuries, others will not bother to care about you at all. Therefore, there are few male disciples living in the courtyard of ordinary disciples who have not fought. In addition, there are many people who deliberately find faults and are domineering by nature. They come directly to the door and enjoy fighting. The more you escape, the more they feel a cat-and-mouse pleasure. In many cases, it is not that if you don't provoke him, he will not bully you. They are all 13 or 14 years old. How can they understand so much right and wrong? Just do it when you think about it. The outlook on life and values are established through repeated setbacks. There are too many ordinary disciples, and they gather in groups. This also leads to the fact that ordinary disciples who have just entered the 5 Elements Temple. Except for girls, there are almost no male disciples who don't fight. This is why Yang Jia wanted to pull Yang Ji. If there is an opportunity, I will help you to get rich together, and the relationship will naturally be strong. Otherwise, everyone is in the same courtyard, and many things cannot be hidden. It is better to take the initiative to bring you together and get closer to each other than to make others jealous and have bad intentions in the end. But what Yang Zhao did not expect was that this opportunity only worked for him. Because of this, his relationship with him broke down. What he thought was good intentions might be seen as deliberate framing by others. It was okay in the first year after joining the sect. Everyone was not very familiar with the rules of the sect, and they were new here. Naturally, they were very honest. Since the beginning of this year, the task system of the General Affairs Hall has been open to them. Easier tasks, such as Alchemy Boy, Weapon Refining Apprentice, and Assistant of the Dharma Hall. Each task is fought for by hundreds of people. Then only a very small number of lucky people can receive it. After all, there are only a few easier tasks, and whoever grabs it will get it. Their strength is not enough to accept those monster hunting tasks above level D, so they can only roll in the sect. At this time, fighting is naturally inevitable. If you don't fight or fight, where will the contribution points come from for cultivation? Even if you are more Buddhist and only accept those hard labors such as clearing the 5 peaks, cutting trees, and mining. But the actual contribution points you get are still more than half less than those of the alchemy boys. In this huge contrast, there are few disciples who are unwilling to compete. After all, there is a big difference between being busy for a whole month and relaxing for a whole month. At this time, some people with flexible minds will warn those disciples who are ready to accept alchemy tasks. If you don't listen, when you get down the mountain, they will pay special attention to you. Then have a friendly discussion. There are also some disciples who will naturally exchange some magic with their contribution points. With magic, they will be eager to try and find someone to practice with. This is one of the important reasons why various small groups are rampant among ordinary disciples. There are all kinds of people, and you don't have the strength to fight more than one. If you don't stick together, you can only be bullied. In the eyes of teenagers like them, if you don't like it, you don't like it, but you don't hold grudges overnight. No one dares to disobey under the fist. Because Luo Yan had moved out of the original courtyard early, and he usually went around alone, he naturally didn't know about these things. No one told him what might happen between ordinary disciples. If an ordinary disciple has no cultivation, no strength, and is alone, this is the easiest to be bullied. In this environment, being alone without strength is not sociable. People who are independent will always receive more attention. In fact, the elders of the sect are very clear about these things, and the reason why they don't stop it is the truly talented ones, like Luo Yan, and the 3 people who met in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. They joined the outer sect in the first year. They usually live in the mountains, isolated from the people below the mountain. It's deserted, and the sect also distributes cultivation resources, but there are not many people, let alone fighting. As for the remaining ordinary disciples, anyway, they have spiritual power to protect their bodies, and it's not a bad thing to be bullied by their peers and get beaten. As long as no one dies, it's a small matter. Maybe it can also inspire the desire of their disciples to practice hard. This is also the reason why the sect lets the disciples go. If jade is not polished, it will not become a useful object. If you don't get beaten, how can you be motivated to practice hard? How can you expect a group of teenagers to be motivated? It's not that there are very few genius seeds being bullied, so there is nothing to worry about. In the eyes of most elders of the sect, it is actually more beneficial than harmful for ordinary disciples who have just entered the sect to be bullied. It's okay in the sect, at most you are not as skilled as others and get beaten. But once you leave the sect, you still don't know the height of the world, don't know how to hide yourself, and don't respect your predecessors like you are now. But it's easy to lose your life. If you get beaten, just find a way to beat it back. Or you can work hard to practice and get back at them when you have a higher level of cultivation. Or you can save more spirit stones and move to the inn in the market with a spirit gathering array. In short, there are still many ways to avoid these external factors. You don't have to fight. Luo Yan's expression was stunned. What he didn't expect was that the place where he lived last year was so lively now. In just 1 year, it feels like he and they have become people from 2 different worlds. I have just started to enter the world of cultivation, and the difference is already so big. As the old saying goes, no one will wait for you in the same place, except yourself. Chapter 53, Inexplicable Favor. Luo Yan believed that he could cultivate to the 4th level of key refining within 2 years. Most of the people in the same batch would probably have this level. After all, in the early stage of key refining, the difference in cultivation between geniuses is very small. Although he is not a true genius. But with the help of the chip, his cultivation efficiency is not much worse than that of a true genius. It is even better than that. With the simulation of the chip, the probability of him taking a detour is smaller than anyone else. If others do not have the guidance of their elders, every time they advance, they will cross the river by feeling the stones. With the help of the chip, he can check for leaks and see his own shortcomings. The advantage in this regard is too great. Why should I agree to you? Give me a reason to agree to you. Luo Yan turned around and looked at Yang Zhao curiously, but his face was smiling. Since I was a child, because of my talent, I have a special sense of many spiritual objects, and I can collect many uncommon spiritual objects for my senior brother. Just like this time, the middle grade spiritual stone, I also picked it up casually when I passed by the dark river. Yang Zhao also figured it out. His opportunity was innate and others could not imitate it. And based on his general observation of the outer sect brother in front of him, he found that there was no arrogance in the eyes of this outer sect brother. He was full of kindness. He could communicate calmly with ordinary disciples like him and listen to him patiently. Having stayed in the sect for so long, Yang Zhao had met many outer sect brothers. Most of the outer sect brothers acted in a commanding tone when communicating with him. Most of the time, they were cold and kept people at a distance. This was why Yang Ji and the other three wanted to curry favor with the outer sect brother. If there was an outer sect brother as a backer, among ordinary disciples, not to mention being able to walk sideways, almost no one would be willing to take the initiative to provoke him. I guess you are often immersed in cultivation, or away from the sect on a mission. I can also find out some information for you and help you deal with some trivial matters. For example, when you go out to hunt monsters, I can help you sell the monster materials. This will be much more profitable than selling directly to the market. Yang Zhao was no longer timid at this moment. He spoke more fluently and actively promoted himself to this outer sect brother. In front of Luo Yan, he listed all the benefits of accepting him as a younger brother. He didn't need to pay him anything, it was all voluntary. Yang Zhao knew that there were very few outer sect brothers like this who had no heirs and didn't judge people by their cultivation. Even in the entire outer sect, there should be very few. Another most important reason was that when Yang Zhao saw this brother, there was always a voice in his heart reminding him. Follow him, follow him. Although it was a vague feeling, he always relied on this subconscious thought to get unexpected benefits. If not unexpected, it was the same this time. So Yang Zhao had his own little idea. He regarded Luo Yan's appearance as an opportunity for himself. The last time he encountered such a human-shaped opportunity was when he ran into the immortal when he went out to beg for food. He got rid of his lifelong begging identity and changed his fate in an instant. This is the second time. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He must seize it firmly. I happen to have more than one storage bag here, with some things in it. You can take them and exchange them for spirit stones for me. If the result can satisfy me, I will agree to it. Hearing Yang Zhao's answer, Luo Yan smacked his lips twice, thinking. He usually doesn't seem to deal with the outside world, and a lot of information is received passively. This is not a good habit. If the sect wants to go to an emergency war against other sects tomorrow, he may still be confused when he goes to the battlefield. He doesn't know which sect he is fighting with. Not to mention the basic situation of the disciples of this hostile sect. If it is the puppet sect, prepare more pills to restore spiritual energy and prepare for a war of attrition. If it is an evil sect, prepare more thunder talismans. Thunder magic can restrain all ghosts and monsters. Only by keeping a close eye on the external environment at all times can you understand the information you want. Otherwise, with Luo Yan's personality, he would either stay in the room to practice, or refine pills, or grow spiritual medicines and raise spiritual beasts. A complete otaku. If there is no one to remind him, he might even forget the time of the outer sect competition. Although Luo Yan is a special recruit, the status of an outer sect disciple is constant. Unlike those who have not reached the late stage of key refining, they can only pass the outer sect competition and enter the top 100 ordinary disciples to obtain the status of an outer sect disciple for a period of 2 years. In principle, he does not need to participate in this outer sect competition. But he still wants to join in the fun and gain some experience. Only by observing as many battles between fellow disciples as possible and bringing enough analysis samples to the chip, he can analyze himself from the most objective perspective and judge how to improve his strength in all aspects in the future. Make up for the shortcomings. Luo Yan will not be so arrogant that he is the strongest among the new disciples. There is always someone better than you, this is an eternal truth. And this outer sect competition is the best opportunity to observe the strength of others. Therefore, when Yang Zhao said, "I can help you with chores and find out some information," Luo Yan had already agreed. The storage bag that Luo Yan threw to him belonged to the hook chain man. This was his trophy. He had never dealt with it. It was just the right opportunity to let Yang Zhao help deal with it. However, he suddenly felt an inexplicable liking for him. The thought of helping Yang Zhao improve his cultivation flashed through his mind. What's going on? Luo Yan was alert. This was just an accidental encounter between them, and he helped him. Luo Yan relaxed his mind, and his thoughts were flying in his mind. Although this is a world where you can practice, anything can happen. But Luo Yan has never even heard of this talent of picking up spiritual objects every now and then. If this beating is regarded as a tribulation, Luo Yan himself is his opportunity. Without this tribulation, he would not have met Luo Yan. If I don't take out a middle-grade spirit stone in front of him to rouse his curiosity, with Luo Yan's character, he will probably just hide aside and watch the show. He is not a nosy person. Thinking of this, Luo Yan's curiosity about Yang Zhao became more and more intense. He seemed to have felt that there was a magical big hand that deliberately pushed Yang Zhao in front of him. All this seemed a little too coincidental. Unexplained good feelings? Interesting, very interesting. Luo Yan's mouth curled up slightly. He originally regarded Yang Zhao as an ordinary European emperor. Now it seems that it is far from that simple. If what Yang Zhao said is true, he must be close to me not just to avoid being bullied. He should also be clear about his own talent. Luo Yan's thoughts drifted a lot in a very short time. When he met such an interesting fellow disciple, it was hard for him not to be interested in exploring him. When will he be able to become someone else's opportunity? Chapter 54 Invitation Letter. Brother, rest assured, I will do my best to handle this matter. Yang Zhao took the storage bag, and his expression was very happy. The fact that this outer sect senior brother would give him this errand task meant that his expectations were still very likely to be realized. Luo Yan took Yang Zhao's identity token and looked at it. After recording a breath with his spiritual sense, he left him the address of his residence. He told him to exchange the things in the storage bag for spirit stones and bring it over. They were all disciples of the same sect, so Luo Yan was not afraid that he would run away with the spirit stones. With Yang Zhao's spirit breath, Luo Yan could find him as long as no one helped him to cover up. Luo Yan wanted to find out what was so special about Yang Zhao. He could actually make him want to help and have a good impression for no reason. Besides, there was nothing valuable in the storage bag of the hook chain man. Except for the low-grade hook chain magic weapon that was worth some spirit stones, Luo Yan didn't even bother to take a look at the rest of the odds and ends. In general, it would be good to have a harvest of about 200 spirit stones. If it is a sword-type magic weapon, it is not so bad. There are many users and it is not difficult to sell. Hook and chain-type magic weapons are a niche type of magic weapons, which are not so easy to sell. It is not cost-effective to sell them directly in the market. Judging from the greed of those shops, the price should be cut in half at least. Luo Yan can't bother shopkeeper Qing every time. After all, he is also a cultivator in the foundation building period, and it is necessary to maintain the necessary respect. It is unwise to bother him for such a small profit. When Luo Yan returned to his residence, he found a communication jade slip at the door. There was a message on it: "My dear junior brother, there is less than a month before this outer sect competition. Brother Yu is preparing to hold a Muling Xianjiao banquet at the top of Muling Peak in 2 days to discuss the matters of this competition. At that time, many fellow practitioners will be present. I hope that my junior brother will come to the side. Jun Boyu." After reading this message, Luo Yan subconsciously glanced at the small road next to him, but unfortunately there was nothing. If this jade slip flew over directly, it would have some spiritual energy on it. However, there was no spiritual energy fluctuation on this jade slip, which meant that it was most likely sent by someone personally. However, he thought that there were not many people living on Muling Peak, and he rarely interacted with others. Even if he saw it, he would not recognize it. There was a formation arranged in his courtyard, which could be seen from a distance. It could be seen at a glance. It was not surprising that someone came to the door. Looking at the name on the signature, it was most likely that a strange senior brother organized this banquet. However, from the word junior brother at the beginning, it can be seen that this fellow disciple named Junboy did not seem to be invited. Instead, it seemed more like a notification. It seems that this person is full of self-confidence. Normally, when inviting people to a banquet, they should be addressed as Taoist brother. There is no such thing here. Luo Yan almost had a characterization of this senior brother Junboy in his mind. Many times, subconscious behavior can best reflect a person's truest behavior. From such a short paragraph, we can actually see the slightly strong character of Junboy. It seems that there will be something interesting to watch at the exchange meeting in 2 days. Luo Yan put away the jade slip of the message. Anyway, it is at the top of the peak. It would be nice to go and take a look at it and get to know more other fellow disciples in the peak. The 4 essential skills of cultivation: wealth, companion, law and land. Companion does not refer to a partner, but a person with the same ideals. From the conversation with Yang Zhao, it can be seen that the outer disciples living on the Muling Peak actually form a small circle of their own. There is an insurmountable gap between them and ordinary disciples. After an incense stick, Luo Yan changed his green Taoist robe and put it into the storage bag. He simply checked the several spiritual peach trees in the yard, and when he saw that there was no growth, he returned to the room. Luo Yan came to the basement, stood under the light of the redstone, and took out a medium-grade spiritual stone with water attributes. He looked at it carefully. The bright blue light did not seem to be emitted by itself. Instead, it seemed to dye the spiritual energy in the air blue. 0. Detect the special properties of this middle-grade spirit stone. Compare the difference between it and the lower-grade spirit stone. Luo Yan took out a pile of lower-grade spirit stones from the storage bag, all in various colors. He found 5 spirit stones corresponding to the 5 elements and arranged them in order in front of him. He crushed them one by one with his hands, and then sensed them carefully. Task establishment, data collection. Data comparison begins. The surface hardness and material of the lower-grade spirit stone are almost the same, no different from ordinary jade. After the spirit stone is broken, the total amount of spiritual power inside is reduced by less than 1%. Fire attribute spiritual power can be absorbed, and there is no abnormality in the body. Gold attribute spiritual power can be absorbed, and there is no abnormality in the body. The blue retinal data in Luo Yan's eye scrolled rapidly. Although there are no sophisticated data detection instruments in the previous life, with the 2 complementary means of spiritual consciousness and spiritual power, the rate of various experimental-related numerical feedback is faster. Comparison results: the surface strength of the middle-grade spirit stone is about equal to the surface hardness of the lower-grade spirit stone. The essence of the 2 water-attributed spiritual powers is the same. The spiritual power density in the middle-grade spirit stone is about 22.8 times that of the lower-grade spirit stone. The rate at which the middle-grade spirit stone is absorbed by the main body is about 9.7 times that of the lower-grade spirit stone, and the spiritual power is replenished faster. Luo Yan looked at the attributeless spirit stone that he crushed casually, and combined with the analysis of the chip comparison, he seemed to have found the similarities. He has 3 spiritual roots of earth, wood, and water, and he mainly practices the wood-attributed technique Wood Spirit Inner Observation Sutra. Logically speaking, his efficiency in absorbing wood-attributed spiritual energy should be the highest. The spiritual energy of earth and water attributes is second. The remaining 2 attributes of spiritual energy are useless when absorbed into the body. However, after the chip comparison test and his own personal experience, he found that the efficiency of absorbing these 5 attributes of spiritual power into the body is the same. In other words, whether it is a gold-attributed spirit stone or a fire-attributed spirit stone, Luo Yan can use it to practice or restore the spiritual power in the body. It was as if the differences in the attributes of spiritual roots were all equal in front of spiritual stones. At this moment, Luo Yan seemed to understand why spiritual stones could become the universal currency recognized by the world of immortal cultivation. However, what confused him was that the spiritual roots with 3 attributes in his body could only absorb the spiritual energy of the corresponding attributes in the air for cultivation. Now, spiritual stones of the 5 elements can absorb them for cultivation. Is there any special reason for this? Or, after a long period of geological evolution, Spiritual stones can transform the 5 attribute spiritual energy in the outside world into universal non-attribute spiritual energy. Luo Yan was puzzled and very confused. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Spirit Stone Transformation Experiment. The spiritual energy in nature is originally an invisible and formless gas, which is normally invisible to the naked eye. Only those who have specially trained their eyes or have strong spiritual consciousness can directly observe the 5 elements of spiritual energy in the air. Most of the time, most cultivators use their spiritual consciousness to sense whether the spiritual energy in a place is sufficient. Under normal circumstances, it cannot be directly observed with the eyes. After the spiritual energy is integrated by the spiritual stone, it will not evaporate even if it is crushed. It is like transforming from a gaseous state to a solid state. It becomes observable. If Luo Yan can thoroughly study the relationship here, is it really possible to reversely deduce and get a real artificial spiritual stone? Moreover, the spiritual power of these 5 attributes can be absorbed after a simple transformation of the spiritual stone. There is no feeling of discomfort in the body. This is a bit similar to the foundation of the heavenly way mentioned by senior brother Li Siki. Think more deeply. The so-called foundation of the heavenly way is such a transformation process. Luo Yan took a few spiritual stones in his hand and threw them unconsciously. Several spiritual stones kept rolling up and down in the air. It's very beautiful. What is the connection between the two? Luo Yan frowned and muttered to himself. But there is one thing he may understand. Spiritual stones can be used directly for cultivation, but few people do this. Including Luo Yan himself, when he cultivates in places where spiritual energy is not abundant, he takes key gathering pills. It's just because the spiritual energy content in a low-grade spiritual stone is too little, so he has to use several pieces for one cultivation. If it is simply used to restore the spiritual power in the body, the number may have to be multiplied tenfold. His current cultivation is still low, and it is so terrifying. When the cultivation becomes higher, the spiritual stones consumed will be even more terrifying. After all, the improvement of realm is measured in years. So this is why many people use spiritual pills instead of spiritual stones for cultivation. The main reason is that the efficiency of directly absorbing spiritual stones is too low, which is very uneconomical. So there are spiritual gathering arrays, key gathering pills, etc., which are used to speed up the efficiency of cultivation. The spiritual energy contained in a key gathering pill can almost allow Luo Yan, who is at the 4th level of key refining, to maintain the cultivation standard for 2 days. If the concentration of spiritual energy around is dense, it can even be used for 3 days. This is many times more efficient than practicing directly with spirit stones. Luo Yan absorbed the spiritual energy from one of the low-grade spirit stones, and then tried to inject his own spiritual power into it. But it didn't work. It was as if it was just an ordinary stone. One-way behavior is irreversible. Looking at the faint blue fluorescence emitted by this medium-grade water-attributed spirit stone, Luo Yan's heart moved slightly. He moved out 2 glass jars placed in the corner and filled them with water. Then he threw the medium-grade spirit stone into one jar and a low-grade water-attributed spirit stone into the other jar. After a whole day, Luo Yan came to the 2 jars. He reached out to check the density of spiritual power in the water in the jar. Because this water is just ordinary well water, the spiritual power content in it is extremely low. It is almost impossible for people to feel it directly. And he has the help of the chip, which can observe many microscopic particles. Naturally, it is not within this unobservable range. Luo Yan first touched the glass jar with a low-grade spirit stone with his finger. It was ice cold. The chip did not react at all. No changes were found. Then he touched the glass jar containing the medium-grade spirit stone. Huh? Luo Yan looked at the blue data in his eyes, which was originally stationary. When he stirred the water in the jar, it flashed several times. He reacted and directly submerged his entire palm into the bottom of the jar. At this time, the blue data jumped down quickly. This shows that the water in the glass jar with a medium-grade spirit stone has indeed changed. However, we have to wait for the specific changes. It will be clear after the final comparison of the chip. It took less than half an instant stick of time. The microscopic spirit factor has changed. Data comparison is being carried out. The electronic mechanical sound of zero sounded in Luo Yan's mind, interrupting his chaotic thoughts. Comparison results: the total spirit content in the water increased by 0.002%. The reason for the change: high-density spiritual energy will spread to a low-density environment. Sure enough, the data from the chip confirmed Luo Yan's guess. Even if it has become a solid spiritual stone, the spiritual energy contained in the middle-grade spiritual stone is constantly radiating to the outside world. This is like a solid spice that will always emit fragrance, until it completely evaporates from the size of a thumb. Because the spiritual power density of this middle-grade spiritual stone is greater than the spiritual power density of the outside world, so there is a layer of light fluorescence on the outside. The fluorescence emitted by the lower-grade spiritual stone is almost invisible. This basement is not in a completely closed state, so Luo Yan cannot sense the subtle changes of the spiritual stone. Luo Yan put this middle-grade spiritual stone into the water. Although the spiritual energy is difficult to dissolve in water, some of the spiritual energy will assimilate the water. It's just that this time is a bit long. If a cubic glass jar is filled with water and only a middle-grade spiritual stone is put in, if you want to make the spiritual power density of the two consistent, that is, to turn ordinary water into spiritual water containing spiritual energy, this transformation process takes at least 13,700 years and maybe even longer, because the concentration of spiritual power in Muling Peak is higher than that in the outside world. Luo Yan also arranged a spirit gathering array on this basis. It seems that the lower grade spiritual stone also has this volatile characteristic. However, its evaporation rate is too slow and too small. Luo Yan, who has the assistance of the chip, cannot sense it. Through this experiment, Luo Yan can infer that the spiritual stone that has been excavated, even if it is left unused and exposed to the air, it will slowly evaporate. However, it takes too long to completely evaporate. Luo Yan made a simple estimate. If you want to evaporate all the spiritual power in this medium-grade spiritual stone naturally, eliminating all external interference, the time required for this process will be measured in tens of thousands of years. On the other hand, put a high-level spiritual stone in a pile of ordinary stones. After a long time, geological evolution. In a fully sealed environment, the original stone also has a high probability of being transformed into a spiritual stone. If you put a piece of top-grade spiritual stone underground, after several years, you might be able to get a pile of mid-grade spiritual stones. At this time, Luo Yan might have understood a little. Why are mid-grade, top-grade, and top-grade spiritual stones the universal currency of cultivators, but under normal circumstances, there are still relatively few in circulation? In the final analysis, it is because of the assimilation of spiritual stones. As long as you put a piece of top-grade spiritual stone in an airtight underground, where the concentration of spiritual energy is not bad, and then set up a gathering spirit array to speed up the process, maybe in just 1,000 years, you can get a spiritual stone mine again. Chapter 56 Doubt. If this speculation is true, thinking of this, Luo Yan turned his eyes to the underground. He had a feeling that deep underground in the 5 peaks of the sect, there might be such a large transformation formation. There are countless spiritual stones there. If not, it would not explain the confidence of the 5 Elements Temple to support tens of thousands of disciples. For those holy sects in the central part, the number of disciples would be even greater. Balancing the outer sects and ordinary disciples, according to the consumption rate of 100 spiritual stones per disciple per year. The total number of sects, big and small, in the entire Kangwu cultivation world would not be less than thousands. What a terrifying number! Moreover, the higher the cultivation level of the immortal cultivator, the more spiritual stones will be consumed. The immortal cultivator who has reached the level of Jinden or Yuanying. In one breath, I am afraid that a pile of low-grade spiritual stones like a small mountain will be absorbed. If the spiritual stones cannot be sustained, the number of immortal cultivators in the 5 Elements Temple will definitely not be so many. It is very likely that it will also evolve into a selection based on spiritual root talent. Just like other sects. The area is vast and there are many mortals, so the probability of giving birth to a child with spiritual roots will naturally be much higher. In such a place, large sects will strictly control the conditions for recruiting disciples. Only those who are eliminated by large sects will have a living space for the family. The meaning of the existence of independent cultivators. Otherwise, they will all be recruited by the sect. Even if they are bullied by disciples in the sect, They will not give up the identity of sect disciples. After all, only through the platform of the sect can we get the most comprehensive cultivation resources. If there is no means of sustainable development, the Kangwoo cultivation world has existed for tens of thousands of years, and with so many cultivators, the resources should have been exhausted long ago. No matter how many spiritual stone mines there will be a day when they are exhausted. However, through the general introduction of the Kangwoo geography in the Sutra Pavilion, combined with his own subtle observations of all aspects of the five elements view, Luo Yan learned that it seems that the sect does not have the concern of running out of spiritual stones. This can be seen from the issuance of tasks in the General Affairs Hall. For physical tasks such as cutting trees and cleaning, the sect does not restrict any conditions. All disciples are allowed to accept it at any time. From this point, it can be seen that only when the sect has a certain confidence will these useless tasks be issued. Compared with helping the sect to feed low-level spirit beasts, if there is still profit, the hard work tasks such as cleaning the five elements peak are really equivalent to the sect giving spirit stones to the disciples in disguise. Although this kind of task is not only hard and tiring, but also only 2 or 3 contribution points for a whole month. But the sect will actually give out cultivation resources. Like many people with mixed five-element spirit roots, in the central region, even the casual cultivators themselves will despise them. Don't expect the holy sect to tilt resources. But in the five elements temple, there is no such situation. They are all based on tasks and treated equally. Otherwise, there would be so many seemingly useless hard work tasks in the General Affairs Hall that are actually used to train low-level disciples. This is to ensure that low-level disciples will not endanger their lives while obtaining certain cultivation resources. After all, except for a few evildoers, most of the cultivators who have just started to practice are very fragile. That is why almost all the monster hunting missions are above level D. There are certain cultivation restrictions when accepting missions, because fighting with monsters is dangerous. A cultivator at the first or second level of key refining, who has not even practiced 2 spells, has a high probability of getting into trouble if he goes to hunt monsters. Under normal circumstances, a disciple who has just entered the sect cannot accept missions above level D. The last time Luo Yan accepted the escort mission, it was because he was familiar with Senior Brother Su from the General Affairs Hall. Senior Brother Su saw that his cultivation had reached the 3rd level of key refining, and there was no need to refuse his face for such a small matter, so he agreed. If it was another disciple who had just entered the sect, he would have been kicked out long ago. After thinking about this, for a moment, Luo Yan's breathing became more and more rapid. There was a heartbeat in his eyes. However, in just a moment, Luo Yan's eyes instantly regained clarity. Even if there are large areas of spiritual stones under the mountains of the sect, what does it matter? It doesn't take much thought to know that the place must be set up with many arrays, and there may be some unknown creatures guarding it all the time. Wanting to consume the wool of your own sect is tantamount to jumping back and forth on the edge of a cliff. It's courting death. Think about the ancient monitoring mirror in the law enforcement hall. The entire Nanayu kingdom is under its surveillance. Not to mention being a thief under its nose. And this is the function that has been revealed, and there are probably more functions that have not been revealed. In short, that ancient mirror is a bit weird. Luo Yan thought of the identity jade card on his body, which can monitor the location of his disciples anytime and anywhere. This is almost the same as the mobile phone positioning in the previous life. If you think more deeply, if you can see his every move through this jade card, like a surveillance camera, then some disciples may be broadcast live when they are making villains outside. It's chilling to think about it. Luo Yan made up his mind that he had to find a way to confine this jade card in the future. At least it is especially important when doing something that violates the rules of the sect. From this point of view, it is better to study hard how to reversely deduce the spirit stone instead of speculating. Then maybe you can directly ascend to heaven in one step. Realize the freedom of spirit stone. In order to achieve this idea, the density relationship between high-grade spirit stones and low-grade spirit stones must be solved. If this problem is not solved, the reverse inversion of spirit stones is impossible to achieve. However, this will be a long-term research topic. With Luo Yan's current conditions, it is difficult to research any results. There is no rush. Luo Yan wiped the moisture on the surface of the medium-grade spirit stone and put it in the storage bag. He had an idea that he heard from the people in the merit hall that there were some high-quality puppets at the headquarters, and they were said to have simple autonomous consciousness. They can help the monks deal with some simple chores. It would be great if there was a way to get one or two of them. Luo Yan casually glanced at the environment of the basement. The space in the basement is still too small. When the area of the basement is expanded, the work of hydroponic spirit medicine will not be as easy as it is now. With a puppet to help take care of all this, Luo Yan can completely free up his time. The main reason is that the spiritual medicines in the basement are not easy to reveal to outsiders. Otherwise, even if he doesn't give spiritual stones, as long as he releases this news, many ordinary disciples will flock to him. After all, being able to work under an outer disciple is a kind of privilege in itself. Compared with ordinary disciples, the overall strength of outer disciples is strong. A casual suggestion can benefit them a lot. Chapter 57, Small Zumi 9 Palace Formation. Calculating the time, the Xianjiao banquet on the top of Muling Peak is about to begin. Luo Yan came to the yard and performed the spirit rain technique. He soaked the spiritual saplings in the yard. He then diluted his special trace element nutrient solution with water and poured it on the bottom of the saplings, until the soil in the yard became soft. He dispersed the clouds above the yard, revealing a large blank space above his head, so that the sun can shine in directly. The mist around the yard really has a good artistic conception. It makes people feel relaxed and happy. Luo Yan closed the gate and hung a sign to go out. Since flying is prohibited on Muling Peak, Luo Yan was not in a hurry and walked up step by step. Along the way, he met many ordinary disciples who were preparing to go up the mountain. Judging from the route, they were most likely going to the General Affairs Hall to accept tasks. Seeing Luo Yan wearing the green Taoist robe that represented the outer disciples, the originally noisy bluestone steps suddenly became quiet, and everyone stopped and made way. When Luo Yan walked by, he would bow respectfully to him. This was to show respect to his outer sect senior brother. Luo Yan did not look away. It was not that he was being arrogant, but there was a class gap between outer sect disciples and ordinary disciples. If Luo Yan was kind and friendly to every disciple, it would make others feel terrified. Strength determines superiority and inferiority. This is a rule that even children in this world understand. This is why he rarely wears outer sect disciple clothes and wanders around in the sect. Because as long as there are outer sect disciples, ordinary disciples will even speak in a low voice. After Luo Yan's figure disappeared from sight slowly, the bluestone steps became noisy again. Have you noticed? This senior brother looks so young. He should be no more than 2 years older than us. I can't even feel that this outer sect senior brother has any cultivation. Is the gap between our strength too big? If I had as strong strength as the senior brother, Fairy Kingayu would definitely like me. Forget it, Fairy Kingayu is now at the 3rd level of key refining. Except for those very few perverts, she is almost the strongest in our class. You are a waste who just entered the 2nd level of key refining last month, and you still want to get close to Fairy Kingayu. Ha ha ha, you are so bold. A loud laugh spread on the bluestone steps. Everyone was happy. Fairy Kingayu's beauty is a consensus. She is also a disciple who entered the sect at the same time as Luo Yan. Because she often performs registration tasks in the General Affairs Hall, she is widely known by ordinary disciples. And because she is naturally beautiful and speaks softly, she is regarded as a fairy by many male disciples. Young man Uai. Luo Yan himself was a little out of touch with the outside world. Every time he carried out a mission, he only looked for senior brother Su Yao from the General Affairs Hall. Therefore, he didn't know much about these celebrities. Somewhat unfamiliar. In fact, the registration of tasks in the General Affairs Hall is very troublesome. It is impossible for an outer sect manager like senior brother Su to do everything personally. After all, for a small task like the D level, there are at least 800 people who accept the task every day, if not 1,000. How can he have so much free time to follow up one by one? So he would find helpers among ordinary disciples. Anyway, it is just a simple registration and verification task, which is very simple. Therefore, the name of Fairy Kingayu is widely circulated among ordinary disciples. Luo Yan actually heard their teasing from a distance in front, and a trace of nostalgia flashed in his eyes. It felt like the noisy classroom when he was studying in his previous life. That kind of innocence slowly walked up, passing the bluestone square near the top of the mountain, and came to the back of the sutra library. The crowd that was originally dense when going up the mountain began to split and gradually disappeared. Continue to walk up and come to a pavilion. 9 white jade steps appeared in front of the pavilion, like 9 snow-white waterfalls falling down. Each jade step was separated by emerald green grass and trees, as regular as the black keys of a piano. But the keys were green. There was a unique symmetrical beauty. Right in front of Luo Yan, there was a boy about his age. He stepped up from one jade step, and after a while, he walked out from another jade step. Repeated several times. It was as if he was trapped inside. At this moment, there were 2 outer disciples wearing the same green Taoist robes as Luo Yan standing in the pavilion. Their temperaments were a little cold. "What's going on?" A man with a sickly pale face and a neutral voice asked. "What else could it be? Can't you see? Someone has set up a formation here." A disdainful tone responded. Luo Yan walked forward slowly. The one who spoke was a man with a handsome face like a woman, smooth and delicate skin, and hair tied up with a yellow wood hairpin. "Misi is playing tricks on people with the formation again. Follow me closely, I'll take you in." The handsome man instructed his companions. He glanced at Luo Yan and ignored him. He had no desire to speak. Because he was a new face he had never seen. There were only a dozen outer disciples on and off Muling Peak, and the only ones who left no impression on him were the new disciples. He originally complained about Misi setting up a formation on the only way to the top of the mountain. Who was he blaming to make such a formation? He was just looking for trouble. Now he saw another person who got the outer disciple token without going through the outer sect competition. He subconsciously uttered a hum to express his dissatisfaction. He always looked down on those who took the back door. Just by practicing faster, they could become outer disciples. They were not worthy of standing with him at all. After all, each of them was made out of thousands of ordinary disciples, step by step with their own hands. The hardships can be imagined. He was quite indignant about Luo Yan's behavior of occupying an outer disciple quota without going through the competition. The guy who became an outer disciple by taking the back door has nothing good except the speed of cultivation. When Luo Yan saw these 2 guys who seemed to be his fellow disciples, his arrogance was revealed. Without waiting for him to get close, he disappeared into the white jade steps. He naturally heard the hum sound. He felt a little puzzled. He seemed to know him. The outer disciples mentioned by Yang Zhao were arrogant. Luo Yan didn't take it seriously. He didn't expect to encounter them so soon. Moreover, Luo Yan's eyes were a little blue, as if he could see through the stone steps and the clouds. He saw the 5 people on the top of the mountain, who were sitting cross-legged on the ground, glancing at the pavilion, looking like they were watching a show. Chapter 58, A Show of Power. Luo Yan was somewhat familiar with the formation that caught his eyes. It was very similar to the top-level first-level trapping formation. It was said that the complete version could even trap a cultivator who had reached the great perfection of key refining inside, and he would never be able to get out. This was a trapping formation called the Small Zumi 9 Palace Formation. The so-called 9 palaces were 9 equal proportion grids, corresponding to 9 positions on the ground. The main palace, Zhonglu Palace, Nanlu Palace, Xianlu Palace, Huangzhong Palace, Damian Diao, Shuang Diao, Shang Diao, and Yu Diao. Then, with the immovable center grid, the main palace was transformed into the formation base, and the 5 elements rotated to form the formation. If others did not know which road was the center formation base and stepped into it rashly, they would be like the boy in front, entering from one road and coming out from another. Repeated cycle. They would never find the exit. However, the formation in front of him should not be that complicated. It should be just a replica. The illusion array was added to the trapping formation, and it looked like a fox, with a head like a tiger and a tail like a snake. Because every time the young man stepped onto the jade steps, the fluctuations of the formation could not be hidden from Luo Yan, who is close at hand. This formation only rotates, without the 5 elements cycle. Rotation is achieved through illusion. It is obviously a formation that traps people, but it was changed into an illusion of changing stone steps. It seems that the person who set up the formation has not yet mastered the formation. In fact, it is also very simple to break this formation. It is very simple to deal with the illusion formation. Just remember one thing. The way to the mountain is unchanged, just keep it in mind at all times. No matter how it changes, whether it is a high mountain sea of fire or a cliff purgatory, just go straight. The person who set up this formation is very interesting. There are 9 jade steps. No matter which one you choose, it is wrong. The real way to the top of the mountain is hidden in the sloping grass and trees on the far left. After all, normal people subconsciously rely on stairs to go up and down the mountain. Who would walk into the green path full of grass and trees for no reason? Therefore, the boy in front of him, who was about the same age as Luo Yan, was running around like a headless fly. He had walked every road, but still couldn't find the way up the mountain. As for the 2 brothers just now, in order to prevent Luo Yan from seeing through them, they also used a trick to deceive the eyes. They deliberately walked to the jade steps next to them. It seems that someone deliberately wants to give them a blow. Luo Yan used his spiritual sense to lightly scan the boy in front of him, who was about the same age as him, and his cultivation was also at the 4th level of key refining. Combined with the behavior of the handsome man just now who ignored him, Luo Yan could not help but guess that this was a formation specially set up for them, the newcomers. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, staring at the front with interest, and he was not in a hurry to go up. He just sat in the pavilion and watched the boy in front of him break through the formation. He was curious whether this boy didn't know how to give up. He knew that he was trapped in a certain formation. He couldn't get through, but he continued to force his way through. He wanted to see if this boy could be flexible and find the entrance. Another person who became an outer disciple in advance like Luo Yan. With a scrutinizing look in his eyes, he looked ahead carefully. Luo Yan was right. The arrangement of this formation was to give a warning to newcomers like them. Because this time, the communication jade slip was issued by Jun Boyu to all the outer disciples living on Mulingfen. There are not only geniuses like him who have overcome many difficulties and worked hard step by step. There are also geniuses like Luo Yan who have just joined the sect and become outer disciples. Including those who joined in previous years, they also became outer disciples without passing the outer sect competition. People who took the back door like Luo Yan. Many times, both sides dislike each other. If Jun Boyu had not coveted the position of the outer sect master brother of Mu Lingfeng, he would not have sent invitations to everyone. Taking advantage of this competition reform, he thought it was a good opportunity. An opportunity for everyone to accept his favor. Only in this way, he would not have too many people mind competing for the position of the master brother of Mu Lingfeng. But the formation near the mountainside was not deliberately instructed by Jun Boyu. Among the people he was close to, there was a formation master who specialized in formations. After knowing that a newcomer might participate, he insisted on giving the newcomer a little gift. Considering the friendship of many years, Jun Boyu could only accept it reluctantly. At the top of the mountain, 5 people had gathered at this time. Do you think this fool can break through Misi's formation? A young man with a palm-sized colorful spirit bird standing on his shoulder and gentle but sharp eyes said. How is it possible? Don't you see who set up the formation? If those guys with similar cultivation to you and me came, naturally I couldn't hide it from them. But the 2 lucky guys at the 4th level of key refining at the foot of the mountain wanted to break my formation. It's nothing but a fool's dream. If my formation was so easily broken by 2 people who took the back door, wouldn't it be a big joke? Beside him, another young man had electric light flashing in his eyes, like runes, with an arrogant look on his face and a sneer on his mouth. He is Misi. Like the 2 young men Luo Yan had met in the pavilion before, he had no good feelings towards those who got in through the back door like Luo Yan. Especially someone who lived in Mu Lingfeng, who was his mortal enemy, said that his formation was not as good as that of an ordinary chess player. If it weren't for the fact that private fighting was prohibited on Mu Lingfeng, he really wanted to teach that guy a lesson. With a dual combination, Misi was very dissatisfied with Luo Yan and others who became outer disciples without passing the outer sect competition. Why do they have to compete every 2 years before their cultivation reaches the late stage of key refining? If they are not careful, they can easily overturn and lose their status as outer disciples. You know, there are at least tens of thousands of ordinary disciples in the sect who have not reached the late stage of key refining. Just to compete for the mere 100 outer disciples. You can imagine how much pressure there is. But this group of people who got in through the back door don't have to do anything. Not only can they not participate in the outer sect competition and fight with many disciples. Even the status of this outer disciple has always remained constant. How could Misi and the others understand this? Misi, just trap them for a short while, don't hurt anyone. The person who tried to smooth things over was the organizer of this Xianjiao banquet, Jun Boyu. He looked calm and spoke slowly. He knew that the power of Misi's formation was far more than that. Jun Boy was afraid that he would not know the severity of the attack and hurt the two people below. After all, the formation has no feelings, and it doesn't know what is serious. Once it is activated, it will not be so easy to stop unless you enter the formation and destroy the formation base. Brother Jun, please rest assured that I will be careful when I attack. I just want to let the two junior brothers below see the world and let them know what it means to respect senior brothers. Misi smiled lightly and waved his hand casually, not caring at all. Chapter 59 Leng Yijin Boyu believed that his strength was enough to make him a good player, even among the outer disciples, who were full of masters. Not to mention Muling Peak, one of the 5 peaks. His strength is even more extraordinary. In the past few years, no one has ever held a Xianjiao banquet. Private small groups are all looking after themselves, just because they participate in the outer sect competition. They all have to pass the 10-win arena and the 100-win arena. Then they are eligible to challenge the outer sect disciples of the previous session who are responsible for guarding the arena. After these many competitions, the number of outer sect disciples is finally determined. After this series of operations, large-scale grouping has naturally become a joke. Because no one can tell who your opponent will be. Once you get a little ruthless, it will become a life-and-death feud. Naturally, there is no need to send this invitation letter. This year is different. Jun Boy got a major insider information. This year's competition will be very different from previous years. Personal courage is no longer a guarantee of victory. So this is the origin of this Xianjiao banquet. Brother Jun, there are only 4 of us now. Even if a few more come later, the number is far from enough. It seems that someone doesn't give you face. The young man with a colorful spirit bird on his shoulder looked around and glanced at the 2 handsome men who had just come up. His eyes were flowing and pointed. Humph. If you don't want to come, then don't come. With the 5 of us, as long as we are willing to stick together, it should be enough. This year is different from previous years. The rules of the competition have changed. It won't work to fight alone. They will all regret it. Jun Boy heard the words, his beautiful sword eyebrows raised, and sneered. There was also a flash of electricity in his eyes, as if he had practiced the same eye magic with Misi. However, the lightning in Jun Boy's eyes was black. His eyes stared into the void, making crackling sounds, like thunder and lightning interweaving. There are at least tens of thousands of disciples below the late stage of key refining in the 5 Elements Temple. It is a great honor to be able to stand out from so many disciples and get the quota of the top 100 outer disciples. The strength is naturally far beyond that of ordinary disciples. The 5 of them are unimaginably strong. But where there are outer disciples, there will naturally be fights. Not to mention the other 4 peaks, just talking about the Muling Peak. There are many people who don't buy into Jun Boy's account. Even Luo Yan discovered the arrogance in his communication jade slip at the first time, and directly regarded himself as a senior brother. The other outer disciples on Muling Peak can naturally see it. Everyone is an outer disciple. They have all entered the top 100 of the outer sect after many competitions. Where do you get the qualifications, Jun Boyu, to dare to call yourself a senior brother? If you meet him outside, you may have to fight him a few moves. Arrogance has a price to pay. He, Jun Boyu, is not worthy of being the senior brother of everyone in their Muling Peak lineage. A short communication jade slip, the content is the same, but it falls into the eyes of different people. The interpretation is naturally different. Other outer disciples will think that this is a deliberate provocation by Jun Boy before the big competition. Distinguish between enemies and friends by whether to attend his banquet. Who knows, they will show their true skills on the stage. Therefore, except for Luo Yan and others who got the quota of outer disciples by virtue of their outstanding cultivation talents, there are 17 outer disciples of the 6th level of key refining who got the top 100 places through the outer competition. In the end, only 4 people came. Luo Yan and his 2 who were trapped halfway up the mountain are not counted. If they can't even deal with a simple illusion array, what's the point of coming? The most annoying thing is that they need to fight to exhaustion in the competition to keep their status as outer disciples. But the 2 junior brothers at the foot of the mountain can get the quota of outer disciples without doing anything. In the eyes of these top 100 outer disciples, no one can look down on these people who got in through the back door. In addition to the fast cultivation speed, there is nothing else. If they were not young at the time, they didn't know what hard work was. There is nothing special about practicing to the third level of key refining in 1 year. This is why MEC set up an illusion array and deliberately teased them. Because fundamentally, including Junbo himself, no one looked down on the two who got in through the back door at the foot of the mountain. It was just that these two junior brothers came to attend his Xianjiao banquet after receiving his message. Junbo still had some good feelings for Luo Yan and the others. This was also the reason why he repeatedly told MEC not to hurt anyone. Not to mention that they couldn't pass the level of the law enforcement hall. They came to attend the Xianjiao banquet he hosted just for his face. A simple tease is harmless. If they really hurt someone, it would be a slap in the face of Junbo. The guest was injured in front of him. If he didn't do something, who would care about him in the future? Not to mention becoming the eldest brother of the outer sect of everyone in Mulingfen. After all, these two junior brothers are outer sect disciples, and they will go to the headquarters to compete for the only position in the future. It's also better to have two more people to support them. Thinking of this, Junbo deliberately looked up at the sky, knowing that no one would come again. He was just about to ask MEC to remove the formation, but in his mind, the junior brother sitting in the pavilion suddenly moved. He was slightly startled. On the mountainside, Luo Yan in the pavilion seemed to have a feeling, and deliberately looked towards the top of the mountain again. It seems that this is not only a show of power, but also a warning to others. Luo Yan was a little disappointed. He had completely lost his favor for the person who held this banquet. He came here specifically for the outer sect competition and to exchange information with each other. He originally wanted to listen to the opinions of these outer sect brothers and get to know them. He never thought that it was not the organizer named Junbo who instructed him, or some fellow disciple who made such a formation to block the road and disgust people. Who is he looking down on? You know, he doesn't have to participate in this outer sect competition. If it weren't for senior brother Li Siki from the law enforcement hall, who specifically reminded him that it would be best to participate in this outer sect competition, Luo Yan turned around and left. Lest he be like the young man in front, jumping up and down like a monkey. It would only make people laugh. Even if Luo Yan could crack the formation in the first place, it would be meaningless. Would he run to a group of outer disciples and say, "Look, I broke your formation"? Show off like a child and let them praise him? Luo Yan couldn't do such a thing, and he thought he didn't have the nerve to do it. In this way, he put himself in a very low position before they even met. They were both outer disciples, but he still made so many things. If they looked down on disciples like Luo Yan, who had just joined the sect last year, they could have just not invited them. As a result, Luo Yan arrived as scheduled, but he found the scene in front of him. Isn't this just making fun of them? What's the difference from the monkey show in the secular world? Thinking of this, Luo Yan's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. However, since he was already here, he would not go up to meet the person who sent him the invitation letter. How insincere it would seem. Luo Yan has always been a sincere person. Chapter 60. Luo Yan went up the mountain to attend the invitation out of respect, but now this face was rubbed on the ground. Any host with a bit of brains would not stop the guests from attending his banquet for any reason. Otherwise, why hold a banquet? Why not just hold a private exchange meeting with friends? How petty. At this moment, the young man who had been fascinated by the 9 jade steps many times seemed to finally wake up and feel as if he had been fooled. Buzz! He became angry and a black long knife suddenly appeared in his hand. He swung it forward with force and turned into a black sun, emitting a blazing light, and directly bombarded the 9 jade steps. In a trance, Luo Yan seemed to see a miniature monkey. Luo Yan shook his head to dispel this fantasy. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and 2 vertical lines appeared on his forehead. Luo Yan originally thought that the young man would choose to give up. At worst, he would not go up the mountain. Unexpectedly, he chose the most violent method. Faced with this combination of a trap array and an illusion array, violent breaking is not the best solution. Luo Yan did not choose to continue watching the show. He was worried that if he continued to watch the show like this, he would attract people from the law enforcement hall. Thinking that they were all disciples who entered the sect in the same batch, and he was also going to the top of the mountain, it would be appropriate to have a companion. So Luo Yan took the initiative to send a message to him to stop him. Don't use the long sword to attack, it is a combination of an illusion array and a trap array. Every time you attack, your vision is disturbed by the illusion array, and the power is poured into the void. Unless you find the base of the array and destroy it, random attacks will be ineffective. Think carefully, is it true that the place you step into each time seems different, but in fact you enter from the same position each time? If you want to go up, just follow my pace. Hearing this, the young man in front of him put away his long sword and looked curiously at Luo Yan, who walked to his side. Are you a former outer disciple like those two people just now? No, I can hear that your heartbeat is faster than theirs. Normally, the faster the heartbeat, the younger the age. Your heartbeat is about the same as mine. You also became a disciple last year. Luo Yan looked at the dark-skinned, capable boy in front of him, with strangely bent hands. Although he was wearing a Taoist robe, his fierce aura was undoubtedly exposed. The words revealed in his mouth made Luo Yan very curious. He could actually hear his own heartbeat? What kind of spiritual perception is this? Generally speaking, let alone the heartbeat of a cultivator, even the heartbeat of an ordinary person, as long as the distance is a little further, it is impossible for a cultivator to hear it. The distance between Luo Yan and the boy was at least more than 10 meters, and his heart was wrapped and isolated by spiritual power. This can also be heard. Luo Yan frowned. I grew up in a monkey group, eating spiritual fruits. I was born with a spiritual body, so my hearing is much sharper than that of normal people. I was met by an elder when he went to the monkey group to exchange monkey wine. He brought me to the sect. My name is Hao Li, you can call me Monkey. As if he knew what Luo Yan was thinking, Hao Li began to take the initiative to introduce his experience. His face was pure and enthusiastic, which was unique to young people. Sure enough, following Luo Yan, with just a few simple turns, Hao Li passed the formation that trapped him for half an hour. There was surprise on his face. Brother Dao, you are too powerful. This bird formation has trapped me for so long, but I didn't expect that Brother Dao could easily solve it. These formations are too dishonest. There are so many twists and turns in them. If you take a wrong step, it will not work. I really want to chop it with a knife. Hao Li glanced at the small Zumi 9 palace formation behind him and bared his teeth. He just plunged into it, and he was confused and couldn't even tell the directions of east, west, south and north. This boy, who was about the same age as him, could lead him out easily. He looked very powerful. I really wanted to have a fight with him. Luo Yan felt this burning gaze, and subconsciously quickened his pace up the mountain. The road to the top of the mountain was not far, and it took half an incense stick of time. Looking down from the top of the mountain, it was surrounded by clouds and mist, and lush green trees. It felt like the 5 peaks were majestic and all the other mountains were small. There was an open-air boulder on the top of the mountain, and the notch was flat and smooth, as if it was cut by a sword. The hair that had not been cut for a long time was already shoulder length, and the strong wind on the top of the mountain blew Luo Yan's hair back. He did not have their immortal style, but was a little more messy. Welcome, 2 junior brothers, to attend the Xianjiao banquet held for me. Junboi is very proud and has prepared a cup of spiritual tea. If I am impolite, please forgive me. Junboi stood up from the futon, smiled and bowed to Luo Yan and Hao Li. He waved his hand again, and 2 steaming teacups on the stone platform flew into the air and stopped in front of them. The other 4 did not stand up, and they were too lazy to even look up. As if no one was around. Although Luo Yan had a lot of thoughts in his mind, there was no dissatisfaction on his face. He returned the futon. He took out the futon from the storage bag and sat quietly on the edge of the stone platform. Junboi's eyes flashed, and he looked at the 4 companions around him, and then looked at the 2 newcomers who were sitting far away, as if they didn't notice that the atmosphere between the 2 sides was a little cold. The smile on his face remained unchanged. Well, it's getting late. It seems that everyone who should come has arrived. Then let's officially start. Let me tell you about this outer sect competition first. Hearing this, Luo Yan and Hao Li were both startled, and they waited attentively for Junboi's next words. The reason why they came to participate in this so-called Xianjiao meeting was to get information about the competition in advance. Although there were not many people participating in this Xianjiao meeting, it seemed like a mess. But this is none of their business. If Luo Yan just wanted to take the initiative to find out because of senior brother Li Siki's suggestion. Hao Li is simply bellicosity. When doing tasks normally, this is not allowed, that is not allowed. He is almost out of touch with the world, staying in the mountains, and private fighting is also prohibited, which worries him. I heard that there are endless fights in the outer sect competition. It's exciting to think about it. As you know, in every outer sect competition in previous years, you need to win 10 games in a row to become the 10-win champion. Then, after most of the disciples have participated in the competition, the 10-win champions will be selected as the 100-win champions. Finally, these 100-win champions will have the opportunity to challenge the outer sect disciples of the previous session. Once successful, they can retain their status as outer sect disciples for 2 years. As soon as these words came out, the 4 people in front nodded in agreement. They came out of those layers of battles. Naturally, they knew the rules here very well. Junbo briefly mentioned the rules of the previous competitions, mainly for Luo Yan and the others to hear. After all, they were new here and didn't understand many rules. Chapter 61 Competition Rules. According to the rules of previous years, the outer sect competition mainly relies on personal strength. I believe that, except for the 2 new brothers, everyone here has strong confidence that they can keep their status as outer sect disciples. After all, those who couldn't beat us before are still just a group of defeated generals, even after 2 years. When Junbo said this, his expression was very calm, without any deliberate boasting, just a simple statement. He still had a strong sense of self-confidence. This is the confidence brought by his own strong strength. The outer sect competition in half a month will have major changes. The place where we will participate in the competition is in a secret small world, which is the place where the sect cultivates various spiritual medicines. There are all kinds of precious spiritual medicines. There are even spiritual medicines that have transformed in the deepest part. And the scope of our participation in the competition is confined to a mountain range, shrouded in white fog, covering an area of about 100 miles. Junbo paused and took a sip of the first-grade high-quality spiritual tea in the cup. He spent dozens of spiritual stones to buy such a small amount of tea. It would be consumed in just a few pots of tea. It has a sweet aftertaste and has the effect of cleansing spiritual power. Disciples participating in this outer sect competition have a total of 3 colors of chess pieces to choose from, which actually correspond to 3 identities. White chess pieces can be purchased with 10 contribution points. Each chess piece can be exchanged for 10 contribution points after the competition. In other words, for ordinary disciples, you only need to grab a white piece and you will get your money back. The rest is a blood profit. Blue chess pieces can be purchased with 100 contribution points. With the authority of the outer sect disciple identity, you can obtain a detection magic weapon. With the help of this special magic weapon, you can actively detect people within 500 meters around you and display them as light spots. Secondly, this blue chess piece also represents the identity of an outer sect disciple. Even if your strength is poor, as long as you are not caught by others, after the competition, as long as you still hold the blue chess piece, you can also obtain the identity of an outer sect disciple. Black chess pieces cannot be purchased. 10 will be randomly given out from the outer disciples of previous years, and they have the same authority as the blue chess pieces. And Junbo's voice suddenly rose, as if there was an impulse of restraint in it. The owner of the black chess piece can go to the 5 Elements Temple headquarters in advance, and the status of the outer disciple will never be taken back. This last sentence fell into the ears of the 4 people next to him, and immediately caused a commotion. No one expected that the reward for this competition would give the status of a permanent outer disciple. The 4 of them looked at each other. Now they don't have to be jealous of the 2 who got in through the back door. However, there are only 10 black chess pieces. What about the rest? Do they need to buy them by spending their contribution points, or get them in other ways? As if knowing what they were thinking, Junbo added, if we outer disciples do not draw a black chess piece, we can automatically get a blue chess piece. After hearing this explanation, they retracted their puzzled expressions and were silent for a while. As if they were thinking, if an ordinary disciple is willing to spend 100 contribution points to buy a blue chess piece, if he hides well, the chance of getting the identity of an outer disciple is still not small. The handsome man thought about it, his eyes moving, his forehead wide, and gave his own opinion. The man with the colorful spirit bird on his shoulder immediately shook his head and retorted, no, 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 it's not that easy. The identity of the blue chess piece seems to be very attractive to ordinary disciples, but in fact, there is a deep trap hidden in it. He touched the spirit bird on his shoulder, his eyes full of warmth. If I heard it correctly, Brother Jun just said that our chess pieces can be taken away. Let's not talk about us outer disciples for the time being. Those ordinary disciples who originally spent 10 contribution points to buy the qualification for the competition have used 10 spirit stones without doing anything. What do you think they will do when they meet ordinary disciples who are also at the first or second level of key refining? They must have attacked each other. If you snatch 1, you can get your money back. If you snatch 2, you can earn 10 contribution points. How can you earn contribution points so easily on weekdays? This is much faster than doing tasks to earn contribution points. Thinking of this, the eyes of the other 3 people all lit up. Since ordinary disciples can snatch from each other, can they also? Yes, you guessed right, we can snatch too. It's just that the profit we get from snatching white chess pieces is very low, only 1/10 of their profit. In other words, if we snatch white pieces, we have to snatch 100 to get 100 contribution points. After hearing this, Misi thought briefly and said indifferently, it doesn't matter if the profit is lower. With the ability of all of us here, it's easy to deal with those ordinary disciples. No matter how small the meat on an ant's leg is, it's still meat. Despite this, Misi's eyes still lit up. Just 100 white chess pieces, very simple. I believe that few of the ordinary disciples who met him would be his match. The rest are contribution points. He also has the help of the formation, so in the end, wouldn't it be easy to get hundreds of contribution points? Don't be happy too soon. As if knowing what Misi was up to, Junbo interrupted his wild thoughts again. Our target is not those white chess pieces. Unless they approach us actively, we don't need to go to great lengths to find them. It's a waste of time. One chess piece only gives 1 contribution point, which is not enough to restore spiritual power. Our main target is the blue chess pieces. In other words, the 10 black chess pieces. At this point, Junbo's thoughts were obvious. His intention was very clear. If he was going to do something, he would do it big. The return rate of bullying such ordinary disciples with small fights was too low. There were 5 of them, and as long as they could find a way to get together, they would not be afraid of anyone. Stealing a blue chess piece was worth 100 contribution points. The 4 people on the side nodded in agreement. With a magic weapon that could detect the color of the chess pieces, who would bother to bully ordinary disciples holding white chess pieces? Misi and others believed that with the combined strength of the 5 of them, it would not be a problem to snatch dozens of chess pieces before most of the outer disciples could react. After that, it would depend on their own abilities. After all, there must be many ordinary disciples who were lucky enough to do their best to buy blue chess pieces. To buy this illusory identity. There were definitely many people who had this idea. There were at least 1,000 people who thought they were the lucky ones who would not be discovered or who thought they could escape the pursuit of their outer disciples. There are many gamblers in the secular world who hope to win big with a small investment, but end up losing everything. Misi also suspected that the change in the rules of this competition was probably because the number of ordinary disciples in the sect was increasing, and more people ignored the sect rules. In the end, the people from the law enforcement hall came, and they wanted to use their outer disciples to deal with this group of ignorant young men. It was just like the 2 boys opposite, who had been here for so long and didn't know how to bow to their elders. Are the young people nowadays so barbaric and rude? Misi's eyes inadvertently swept over Luo Yan and the others. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Conflict. Misi's undisguised and malicious look was naturally noticed by Luo Yan. He just smiled and passed by. His face was still smiling. He was not good at making harsh words. Moreover, there were clear regulations in Mulang Peak that prohibited private fights. There was no need for a temporary verbal dispute. Junior brother has just come to the sect not long ago. This is the first time I received an invitation letter from senior brother Jun. I was very honored. After meeting you today, I really benefited a lot. I didn't expect that it would be so difficult to pass the outer sect competition and get a place as an outer sect disciple. Senior brother Jun and his friends can stand out from tens of thousands of disciples. They must have abilities beyond ordinary people. I really envy you. Luo Yan smiled and his face was warm, putting himself in a slightly lower position. He also inadvertently raised Junbo in his group. These words made the 5 people on the opposite side nod subconsciously. Look, this is the difference. What a nice way to speak. Brother Luo, where are your polite words? You can cultivate to the 4th level of key refining in just 2 years. Your cultivation talent must be incomparable to ordinary people. And you don't have to work as hard as us, fighting for a few places for outer disciples. I am the one who envy you. Luo Yan followed their words, and Junboi naturally heard them. He grew up in the secular palace since he was a child, and he heard a lot of seemingly flattering words that actually had other intentions. Although he was not sure whether this brother Luo was a deep-minded person. But due to the environment he had been in for many years, his reply was naturally refreshing. He also inadvertently lifted Luo Yan's hand. Everyone lifts the sedan chair. Although Junboi did not take Luo Yan and his team's current strength seriously, he never underestimated those who could cultivate to the 4th level of key refining in just 2 years. He also came from the early stage of key refining. The difficulty of cultivation here can be imagined. The idea that if one can practice hard when just entering the sect, one will definitely be able to get a place as an outer disciple right after entering the sect is nothing but self-deception. As far as Junboi knows, the spiritual root qualifications of the group that junior brother Luo belongs to are almost all geniuses with 3 spiritual roots or above. They are the kind of true cultivation geniuses. He just feels a little uncomfortable that such people can get the quota of outer disciples in advance without going through the competition. He thinks this is unfair treatment given by the sect. It's just that everyone is not treated equally. This is just like when Luo Yan had lunch at school in his previous life. Just because someone had good grades, he could jump the queue to get food. In this kind of scene, any student can't stand people who enjoy such special treatment. Don't fight on the spot, even if you have a good temper. After all, it's jealousy. However, if the person who can jump the queue is yourself, you will think this arrangement is extremely wise. This junior brother Luo seems to be quite perceptive. He knows that people like us who get the quota of outer disciples by strength are fundamentally different from you who get in through the back door. It's like a formation I casually set up can stop you from taking a single step. Do you know the gap between you and us? Misi smiled lightly, as if teasing Luo Yan, with a sense of complacency at the same time. He knew the formation he had set up. Its power was not enough to trap a cultivator of the 6th level of key refining at the same stage as him. But it was no problem to use it to trap 2 juniors who were only at the 4th level of key refining. In Misi's opinion, after the handsome man came up, the 2 boys followed him up. He must have been soft-hearted for a moment and revealed the trick of passing the formation to the 2 boys. Otherwise, with the ability of that stupid boy, he would not be able to reach the top of the mountain before dark. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes, and Misi's words made him frown. However, he still held back, and the smile on his face did not disappear at all. The man-eating monsters were all quiet. But Hali, who was next to Luo Yan, could not sit still. He stood up, pulled out his knife, and placed it across his shoulder. Hey, that pretty boy over there, haven't you been fed up with us for a long time? You used some messy formation to show how powerful you are, but my brother saw through you at a glance. You look like you are in your 20s. Tisk. How come your cultivation is only at the 6th level of key refining? How embarrassing. Hali's tone was full of disdain, his eyes were arrogant and unruly, and he took a light step, as fast as thunder, and blew towards everyone with a gust of wind. Since you were the one who set up the formation, I was forced to run around in it for a long time. You're bullying me for not knowing the formation, right? I'm here to seek revenge. Why are you pretending to be a good person? Don't always act like a woman, hiding behind people and hurting them. I feel ashamed for you. Take out your weapons, and let's have a head-on fight. Hao Li gently exerted force on his feet, and the huge rocks under the feet of the crowd first cracked a gap, and then collapsed one by one. What did you say? Misi gritted his teeth and stood up, his expression gloomy. He was threatened by a backdoor in front of so many fellow practitioners. His face was burning with pain. Okay. Very good. Misi laughed in anger, and the lightning in his eyes seemed to materialize, shooting out cold electricity, like a violent monster, with red eyes and as sharp as that. Then come over and fight, a life and death duel, do you dare? Hao Li was full of momentum, like a beast awakening, and took another step forward, and the boulder broke into pieces, like a huge monster moving. Luo Yan and the others had no choice but to waste their spiritual power in the air. Shut up! Junboi shouted directly at the 2 of them. He was holding the Xianjiao banquet today. If he had known that few people would come, he might as well hold an exchange meeting privately. Now it seems that it has been messed up. He has a headache. Come and see who wins and who loses." Hao Li shouted loudly, and his voice spread far and wide. His sword light was faintly carrying the sword intent, cutting through the void, like a bloody mouth, swallowing all the enemies in front. "You are looking for death?" Misi shouted coldly, and the lightning in his eyes directly materialized, and the void was filled with lightning. The two palms pushed flatly, and the black light between the palms burst out, and the lightning became stronger, accompanied by bursts of sizzling sounds. The knife light and lightning almost covered the entire mountaintop, emitting a terrifying pressure, as if a ferocious beast fell from the sky, and the mist on the mountaintop was instantly torn apart. This terrifying scene frightened the disciples passing by Muling Peak, and they all looked up curiously. Among them, there were rainbow lights that turned into light spots from the mountainside and arrived in an instant. Then he stopped in the distance with his hands folded. He looked like he was watching a good show. "Is there any festive day today? Someone dared to fight on Muling Peak. How brave." Chapter 63 Watching the show at Muling Fin. On the mountainside. In a courtyard outside the cliff, there is a square stone table, where 3 green figures are sitting. There are also a few plates of spiritual fruits and a pot of white jade wine on the table. It's the momentum that broke out at the top of the mountain. "It looks like a fight is about to start," a green figure said. "Isn't there a Xianjiao banquet hosted by Junboyu today? I wonder how many people went and whether they can get a table together. There must be a dispute there." Another green figure responded. "Junboyu, this idiot, doesn't even think about it. People like you and me with good tempers are fine. When we see the words on his invitation letter, we can just ignore it at most. If we were on Huling Peak or Jinling Peak, we would meet those people with explosive tempers. If you dare to call him junior brother, you would have been torn off the top of the mountain. He doesn't even use his annoying brain. We are all unruly outer disciples. We want to win over others with a few words and then ride on all of us. He may have stayed in his secular palace for too long and forgot to take off the hypocritical mask on his face. He really thinks he is a dish. He doesn't even feel tired." The young man sitting directly above sneered. He looked about 18 or 19 years old, with a slender figure and a square face with clear contours. His expression was full of disdain for Junboyu's behavior. But why did that voice sound a bit strange? Is it a new junior brother? Never mind, I don't want to ask, let's drink. The 3 of them raised their glasses and felt very happy for a while. Among the outer disciples, except for a few like them who didn't like to watch the fun, most of the others rushed directly to the top of the mountain. How could such a big melon be missed? Go quickly. Go quickly. Luo Yan glanced at the increasing number of figures gathered around him, all in green Taoist robes. Looking around, there were no less than 20 people. It seemed that all the outer disciples on the Muling Peak were lured out to watch the fun. Just as Luo Yan was hesitating whether to stop Hao Li, his pupils shrank suddenly. A figure like a 3-year-old child appeared on the left side of his sight. He flashed by, wearing a black Taoist robe and carrying a mysterious wooden sword on his back. It looked ridiculous. Luo Yan did not dare to underestimate him, as if he was facing a great enemy. It was because the appearance of this black-robed child did not leave any trace. His consciousness did not react. There was no sound of breaking through the air caused by high-speed movement. The outer disciples next to him had strong spatial fluctuations when they used the escape light, but this child seemed to appear out of thin air. Looking again, the child was gone. Luo Yan looked around and did not find any trace of him. But he was sure that the black-robed child must still be around. "Huh? Missy, who is the boy opposite you? Why does he look a little strange? The Taoist robe he wears is from our Muling Peak. Is he a newcomer? Wow, he looks so powerful." A green figure around asked. "Missy, hurry up. Teach those ignorant newcomers a lesson. They don't even know how to respect their senior brothers. Pin him to the ground and beat him. If you win, I'll buy you a drink. If you lose, you'd better take off the Taoist robe on you. I feel ashamed for you." Another voice that was eager for chaos sounded, with a little ridicule. There was a hint of fanning the flames in it. "Hey, young man, I've long disliked these arrogant formation masters. They dared to charge me 30 spirit stones for setting up a small spirit gathering formation. There is no black-hearted businessman so black. I worked hard day and night to complete the task, and all the money went into his pocket. Young man, go fight him. If you win, I will go back to my residence with you. I will do whatever you want." A silver bell-like female voice sounded, with a touching meaning that made people feel pity. Luo Yan turned his head and saw a graceful figure not far away. It was obviously an ordinary green Taoist robe, but she wore it with a sense of charm. It was just that the place where she stood was a vacuum, and the outer disciples next to her were far away from her. Faintly, Luo Yan could still hear such words, "Why is this bitch here too?" From what she said, Misi set up a spirit gathering array for others and took 30 spirit stones. He is really mean. I usually only take 28. No wonder he was found, he is mean. Seeing more and more people watching the excitement, the two people in the middle seemed to be really angry, and they looked like they were ready to fight at any time. Luo Yan thought of the strange body movements of the black-robed child with a sword on his back. It didn't seem like something that an outer sect disciple in the middle stage of key refining could do. It seemed a bit similar to Li Siki's body movements, which left no trace. But it was more treacherous. Is it from the law enforcement hall? They didn't come out to stop them even when they arrived, and deliberately waited for them to violate the sect rules before arresting them. Luo Yan thought to himself. He thought about it, and there was probably only this possibility of phishing enforcement. When Hao Li's knife and the electric light in Misi's palm were about to be completely intertwined, Luo Yan and Junbo attacked at the same time. The two of them instantly came to the two sides who were already at loggerheads, and directly used their spiritual power to cut off their power accumulation. "Let's go, the people from the law enforcement hall are here." Luo Yan transmitted the message. Hao Li heard this, and his momentum suddenly stagnated, and he curled his lips. "It's really boring. I can't have a good fight again. With those people from the law enforcement hall here, I can't let go of my hands and feet at all." Huh? Have the people from the law enforcement hall arrived? Why didn't I notice it? A green figure was surprised. They should have arrived, otherwise how could the protective formation above us be activated? Another green figure pointed to the faintly visible runes above his head. That is the unique protective formation of Mulang Peak. The protective formations of the other 4 peaks are also different. But the operation is similar, and they can mobilize the earth vein energy of each mountain. Brother, don't be scared, go fight me. See. The real geniuses are born on the battlefield. Maybe you will be the next Taoist of our 5 Elements temple. Don't worry, the people from the law enforcement hall will not come out before you finish fighting. If he comes out early, with so many of us here, we will definitely be able to stop him. It won't interfere with your duel. Although they knew that the people from the law enforcement hall were coming, there were still many people who were afraid that the world would not be in chaos and fan the flames. They came to watch the fun, and it would be boring if they didn't fight. However, with Luo Yan's warning, Hao Li's fighting spirit disappeared. He was not a fool. The reason why the people from the law enforcement hall didn't show up was that they were waiting for the two of them to fight. In other words, they were waiting for the two of them to finish fighting and then capture them together. The people from the law enforcement hall were very skilled in this kind of operation. Chapter 64, Harsh Words Before the Competition. Hey boy, I hope you can participate in the outer sect competition in half a month. Then I'll see if you can still be as rampant as you were just now. Although Misi's face looked extremely angry, he still carefully restrained his extreme behavior. There was deep fear in his eyes. His eyes swept across, as if he was looking for someone. With Junbo stopping him, Misi naturally woke up from the rage just now. A trace of fear flashed through his mind for a moment. The disciples who had just entered the sect may not have experienced the horror of these people because they had never seen the existence of the law enforcement hall. Misi had been in the sect for nearly 10 years, so how could he not know how powerful the law enforcement hall was? At the very least, they were all in the great perfection of key refining. Even if all of them were tied together, they might not be able to beat them. You should know that there are only 2 types of people who can enter the law enforcement hall in their 5 Elements temple. One is a genius among geniuses. They specialize in dealing with all kinds of disobedience. And they are extremely fierce and will not give others room to resist at all. If a disciple dares to violate the sect rules, he will be beaten to the point of being unable to move first, and then consider whether to give you time to listen to your reasons. Finally, he will be convicted and punished. But most of the disciples just fall for this. Because being able to join the law enforcement hall is a symbol of strength. Only if you can defeat these disciples who are only in their teens and 20s, will they be afraid of you. Otherwise, the sect's rules are there, and no one will care. Even the sect's foundation building and golden elixir elders who dare to violate the sect rules will not escape punishment. The other type is those disciples who have failed to build their foundation many times but are relatively strong. They usually attack the matter rather than the person. Although the means are relatively mild, they act strangely, and the light ones are light, and the heavy ones are heavy. In short, the existence of the law enforcement hall is an extremely terrifying existence for most outer disciples. Tisk, you don't need to remind me, I will also participate. I am different from you, a sinister villain who likes to hide behind and do small tricks. I, Howley, like to be straightforward. If I say I want to fight with you, I will fight with you. No one can stop me. Howley turned his head and responded loudly. He had originally wanted to participate in the outer sect competition, and Misi's words coincided with his. As for whether he could beat the outer sect disciples of the 6th level of key refining, he would know after the competition. Howley, who grew up in a group of monkeys, only understood one truth, that is, if someone provokes him, beat him until he is beaten to the ground. Beat him until he bows his head. In this world, the strong are respected, and whoever has the bigger fist is right. The weak do not deserve to have the right to speak. Seeing that the two did not fight in front of the law enforcement hall after all, but instead threatened each other, the figures around were all silent. They couldn't help but curse inwardly, 2 cowards. Then they left one after another. Since they couldn't fight, why stay here and waste a good mood? As for the sentence I will block the people from the law enforcement hall for you, it was just a joke and no one mentioned it. If these people can arm wrestle with the people from the law enforcement hall, why are they still bragging and muling feng? I moved to the Great Wilderness headquarters a long time ago and competed with other sect disciples on the same stage. Who would choose to hide in this small pond when they can show themselves on a bigger stage? With the people from the law enforcement hall suppressing them, they can't even be king. Seeing that the people around them had dispersed, Luo Yan bowed to Jun Boyu. Brother Jun, we will leave first. At today's exchange meeting, this spiritual tea is not only delicious, but I also feel that I have gained a lot and benefited a lot. I will definitely invite you back another day. Jun Boyu also bowed to Luo Yan. See you, Brother Luo, we will meet again next time when we have time. Both of them had a gentle smile, as if the tense atmosphere just now did not affect them at all. They were all calm and composed. This identical action made both of them stunned. It seemed that the other's smile had been seen somewhere before, but there was no direct conflict between them. On the contrary, Luo Yan had to accept the favor of Jun Boyu for the news he revealed today. After watching Luo Yan and the others leave, Misi's face showed a ferocious look again. Black boy, it's okay, wait for at most half a month. When the time comes, I want you to kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake. Misi waved his sleeves, without even looking at Jun Boyu and the other 4, and left on his own. This rude behavior caused them to frown. On the way down the mountain, Howley's mood calmed down a lot, and the innocence on his face emerged again. It's a pity, if it weren't for the existence of the law enforcement hall, we could have had a good fight just now. There was a little regret in his expression. It was like he was annoyed. The feeling of wanting to fight but not being able to fight was too bad. If it weren't for the Taoist brother next to him who dispelled the spiritual power in his body, Howley would probably not have stopped just now. At worst, he would be caught by the people of the law enforcement hall and thrown into the mine. It would be worth it to be able to fight to his heart's content. Luo Yan had no doubt about the truth of this sentence, judging from his performance just now. Howley is a warlike person. Brother, do you want to participate in this outer sect competition? Although I don't know your specific strength, I know that your strength is not inferior to mine from the speed you showed just now. The two of them went down the mountain slowly, and the ordinary disciples who met them along the way stood aside obediently. Howley leaned his head closer and stared at Luo Yan curiously. You know, the spiritual power in his body just now was directly imprisoned by him and then dispersed. If he didn't have super strong spiritual power control, it would be impossible to do this. It seems that this Taoist brother in front of him is very hidden. Do you really want to participate in the outer sect competition? Even if you can beat me, see what will happen next. You have to know that there are 5 of them. The other 4 can't just watch their companions lose and do nothing. You will be in danger then. Luo Yan looked at the clouds in the distance, which were level with the mountain peaks, like a fairyland on earth. The rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth was trapped in this small mountain peak. It makes people feel relaxed and happy. Many things cannot be judged by appearance alone. In most cases, Misi's identity is not only a representative of himself, but more of their small group. It's okay if Hao Li loses the fight, but if he wins, Luo Yan believes that the other four will never stand idly by. When the five of them stand together, this small group is formed. At this time, Hao Li hit not only Misi's face, but the faces of the five of them. This is why small groups are prevalent among the disciples of the sect. As long as they are accepted, they share honor and disgrace. If Luo Yan and his friends were more humble, they would have a great chance of being accepted by Jun Boyu. Now, Hao Li and Misi have a big conflict, and this possibility no longer exists. Fortunately, Luo Yan has never thought about joining them. Chapter 65, Body Refining. Aren't you here to see Brother Deo? I can sense the flash of displeasure in Brother Deo's heart. I believe Brother Deo doesn't like them either. It's perfect for you and me to join forces. Then, let's go find a few disciples who entered the sect at the same time as us to discuss it. I believe they will be interested in such a big thing as challenging the outer sect brothers. Hao Li is actually very smart and knows how to use the power of others to achieve his goals. He is far from being as simple as he looks. It's just that because he enjoys the feeling of fighting, his characteristic of liking to fight with others is too obvious. He just blocks the other side of himself. If you can find enough people by then, I'll see what happens. Luo Yan shook his head, neither refusing nor agreeing immediately. He thought more. There is a sentence that he didn't say clearly, that fighting alone is boring. The meaning of the black chess piece in Jun Boy's mouth can make Luo Yan have the urge to take action. Fighting without interests is meaningless. The goal this time should focus on the black chess piece. If by then, Misi and the others happen to have a black chess piece, it won't be too late to agree to join forces with Hao Li. It's just that he and Hao Li just met, so there's no need to talk too much. The friendship between the two sides is not yet to the point where they can speak their minds out. If Hao Li only wants to fight with others, Luo Yan is not going to get involved. It is unwise to have a grudge with Misi and others just because of a few words. There is no point in having a quarrel and then fighting. Weighing the pros and cons is the wisdom of adults. Unless there is a reason that forces him to take action, such as the black chess piece. The strength of Jun Boy's group is undoubtedly strong. At least each one is not inferior to Lin Lu, or even exceeds it. If you want to deal with them, it will be very difficult if you don't think of a way. If there is no sufficient benefit to be an enemy of such a team, Luo Yan will not take action. If he remembers correctly. In this competition, if the outer disciples are robbed of the blue chess piece, they will lose their outer disciples. The most profound way to hide a person is to make him lose the thing he cares about most. Isn't Misi proud of being an outer disciple? Then find a way to trample him under his feet and beat him to the bottom. This is the only way to achieve the purpose of venting anger. Luo Yan didn't know if Hao Li had this in mind. If so, it means that this person is far from being as simple as he looks. If you make friends with him, you have to be more careful, so as not to trap yourself. If not, Hao Li just wants to satisfy his addiction to fighting. Luo Yan is still willing to help him as long as he can. Although he is the most loyal practitioner of pragmatism, he hates the kind of behavior that does not get any benefit and still gets into trouble. But he is still willing to have a simple-minded person as a companion. At least when dealing with simple people, you never have to worry about so many tricks. Then it's settled, Brother Deo. I'll come to you during the outer sect competition. Hao Li showed Luo Yan a mouthful of white teeth. Luo Yan smiled and nodded. Hao Li said goodbye to him, and after arriving at a bluestone square, he went in the direction of the merit hall. After he walked a distance, Luo Yan thought carefully about what Hao Li had just said and found that he was not as simple as he appeared. If it was just a fight, I believe that with Misi's arrogance, if he was led to a place outside the sect, Misi would most likely not refuse. But Hao Li wanted to come and invite him. Luo Yan didn't believe that there was no other consideration. It was very likely that Hao Li was also thinking the same thing as him. The intensification of the conflict might become a reason to fight openly. However, he and Luo Yan were just meeting for the first time, and neither side had a deep conversation. If that was the case, he would have to be more careful. Thinking of this, Luo Yan silently said in his heart, 0. Detect Hao Li's physical condition and analyze the possible exercises he may have practiced. Task established. Detecting Hao Li, total spiritual power greater than 120, 4th level of key refining, advanced breathing method, proficient, black light flowing on the surface of the body. It is speculated to be a physical training method. The strength is unknown. The length of the sword energy is consistent with normal. It is speculated that the sword intent has not been mastered. Physical training method. Luo Yan had a clue in his mind. This data is obvious. Hao Li's physical fitness should be extremely strong. Otherwise, his cultivation of the 4th level of key refining alone would not be enough to compete with MEC, who is at the 6th level of key refining. And from the observation of his fighting style, he used a long sword-like magic weapon and did not use magic. This shows that Hao Li's real fighting style should be swordsmanship. But Luo Yan did not feel the explosion of sword intent from him. With the artistic conception of water, he is most sensitive to other artistic conceptions of the same kind. If Hao Li's sword intent has entered the door, Luo Yan cannot fail to notice it. Now the biological intelligent chip can detect so clearly. One is that Luo Yan's cultivation has been greatly enhanced. The 5 senses have also been enhanced a lot. The second is that the distance between the two people is very close, and they have had brief contact. With the convenience of divine consciousness, as long as Luo Yan has it in his database, he can detect the basic data of all creatures within 30 meters around him. The error rate is extremely low. The total spiritual power of Junboi and the others is between 240 and 280. According to the total spiritual power value of the biological chip, the total spiritual power of more than 120 is the 4th level of key refining. A total amount of spiritual power exceeding 300 is the 7th level of key refining. However, the threshold for the late stage of key refining is not just to meet the total amount of spiritual power. It also depends on one's own qualifications. Some people make rapid progress in the early stage, but get stuck in a certain realm in the later stage. There are countless such examples. However, judging from the total amount of spiritual power of Junboi and others, they do not look like they have just entered the 6th level of key refining. Hao Li can hear my heartbeat under the interference of my spiritual power, which means that his 5 senses must be more sensitive than ordinary cultivators. In this case, he dares to take the initiative to attack MEC, which means that his trump card is in the body refining. Luo Yan guessed in his heart. Judging from the data provided by the chip, Hao Li's basic data is not as outstanding as his own. He does not use magic, and his swordsmanship can only be said to be acceptable compared to someone like MEC. MEC, apart from his arrogance, is amazing in terms of strength. A person who has been in the key refining stage for nearly 10 years. During this period, he participated in several outer sect competitions and encountered countless opponents. In this case, MEC's combat experience is definitely richer than any of them. After all, 10 wins in the arena, 100 wins in the arena. This is not just a simple talk. It needs to be fought out. If you think so, then Hao Li still believes that his combat ability, which is mainly based on physical training and close combat, is not inferior to MEC. Or do you have other backup plans? Luo Yan thought to himself. Chapter 66 Reflection. Luo Yan also knew about the spiritual power training. Although the various schools of physical training methods in the cultivation world are dazzling, the common ones can be roughly divided into 2 types. One is the method that only monsters use. From childhood, they directly take various spiritual medicines and spiritual fruits, and then through repeated battles, they keep themselves in a state of constant injury at any time. In this way, the excess medicinal power in the body is awakened. Stimulate the body's inherent potential. However, this seems too rough. The pain suffered in the body can be endured by gritting teeth. But if this state is maintained for a long time, it is easy to cause hidden injuries to the body. Maybe it will break out one day in the future. The hidden danger is very large. After all, we humans do not have the strong self-recovery ability of monsters, and it is difficult to regenerate broken limbs after being injured. The other is the training method of sword cultivators. They will first soak the whole body in a special medicine liquid, and then use special exercises to circulate spiritual power to repeatedly temper themselves. When the body adapts to that part of the spiritual power, the intensity will be gradually increased. After the strength of the body reaches a certain level, then use external force to exercise. At this time, the inside and outside of the body are soaked in the medicinal power of the medicine, just like a medicine man. At this time, with the help of appropriate external force to temper, it can help the body absorb the medicinal power, so as to achieve an indestructible level. A true sword cultivator, his physical strength must be proportional to his sword intent. Otherwise, if there is only sword intent, but the body is not strong enough. The sword energy that is accidentally emitted by oneself will first hurt his body. Before hurting others, you hurt yourself first. However, in the field of body refining, it is easy to get started, but difficult to master. It burns too many resources. And it is also a step-by-step process. If I have time, I can also try to refine my body, and those extra water-cultured spiritual medicines will come in handy. Luo Yan thought. He is a person who likes to summarize his shortcomings. After seeing the advantages of Hali, he naturally thought of using it to make up for himself. Many cultivators worry that their energy in the early stage is too scattered, which will eventually lead to slow growth in cultivation. This does not apply to Luo Yan. With the assistance of the biological intelligence chip, he does not have to worry about this at all. His control over his body far exceeds that of ordinary people. If one day, his cultivation speed slows down, the chip will remind him immediately. Learn more from other strengths. Sooner or later, Luo Yan will become a cultivator without obvious weaknesses. Time passes. The sun sets and the moon rises. In the evening, Luo Yan sat in his yard, with more than 20 first-level formations of various types placed on the stone table. This was specially selected when he went to the second floor of the Sutra Library in the afternoon. After he met Jun Boyu and his group and had a rough basic data, Luo Yan used the chip to simply simulate the battle scene between the two sides. One-on-one. Except for Jun Boyu, his chance of winning is only 57.3%, less than 60%. And what unknown backhands they have is unknown for the time being. If this is also counted, his chance of winning will drop further. This situation means, if Luo Yan faces any of the four of them at that time, the chance of winning is not high. It is likely to be a draw. No one can do anything to anyone. If two people attack at the same time, he will have to run away. If he faces Jun Boyu directly, he will most likely lose. The possibility of winning is less than 10%. After all, Jun Boyu is the most powerful person in their small group. Since Luo Yan has made up his mind to participate in the outer sect competition, and if he wants to obtain a black chess piece as his goal, then facing other outer sect disciples is a hurdle that he cannot get around. Judging from his current strength, it is enough to protect himself. It is not enough to win. Luo Yan's training time is still too short. For ordinary disciples, it is unimaginable to practice to this point in 2 years. Cultivation, formation, magic, alchemy, are not left behind. But this is only for those ordinary disciples. If Luo Yan faces those outer sect disciples, he will seem a little powerless. And the black chess piece will only appear in the hands of outer sect disciples. If he cannot win the battle with the outer sect disciples cleanly, even if he grabs it, he will not be able to hold it later. This is a dead cycle. Therefore, it is extremely difficult to obtain a black chess piece by yourself. Not only do you need to defeat your opponent, but you also need to have enough spiritual power to face the endless challengers that come next. There are only 10 black chess pieces, and no one will not be tempted. No outer sect disciple will give them to others casually. This is why Luo Yan did not refuse his suggestion to Hao Li to form a team. In the early stage of this outer sect competition, it was obviously a personal melee. When almost everyone is eliminated, the later stage is a joint confrontation between small groups. Unless you have the strength to suppress everything, forming a group is the best choice. Among the disciples participating in the outer sect competition, some are as talented as Luo Yan. But because they have entered the sect for a short time, they have not yet fully grown up. Or they are like Jun Boyu's group, who have been in the middle stage of key refining for many years. Their cultivation talent and strength are not as good as those of the upper class, but better than those of the lower class. Since it is impossible to fight one against many, then the number of people is a very important quantitative comparison word. Seriously speaking, the true prodigy has been determined in the first year of entry. Even if it is the basic breathing method, it is impossible to conceal the speed of cultivation in a place with rich spiritual energy like this sect. Luo Yan compared a difference in strength between himself and the outer disciples and felt that he could protect himself. If he wanted to defeat him completely, it would take a long time. Unless he could find a way to improve his strength again in a short period of time. The magic has been completed, and there is no clue about the perfect level. It can be ignored. It is even more difficult to achieve cultivation in one fell swoop. In a short period of time, skip the 4th level of key refining and break through again. This is like the 3 stages of a person: youth, and old age. They all have to go through step by step in order. No one will skip the youth period and grow up to adulthood in an instant. This violates the natural law of organisms. The same is true for cultivators. The growth of cultivation still follows this law. The spiritual power absorbed by the spiritual veins in the body every day is constant, and it cannot absorb more. The behavior of wanting to eat a big fat man in one bite will not work in this world of cultivation. Your stomach is so small, and the amount of food you eat for 3 meals a day is fixed. Eat normally when you are hungry. This is the natural law of living things. The same is true for cultivation. In general, the total amount of spiritual energy absorbed by the spiritual veins in the body of a cultivator is also fixed. It cannot be achieved overnight. Chapter 67. The possibility of increasing the power of Zyokyanized sword formation is that you can't skip meals for the first 6 days, accumulate them until the weekend, and then eat a total of the first 6 days' meals in one meal. Cultivation is a continuous process. Daily cultivation is similar to 3 meals a day. On time and in quantity. Find your own bottleneck. Break it and you can advance. However, Luo Yan used the observation of the chip. He found that if the cultivators in the key refining period only meditated, it would be difficult to fully meet their spiritual power growth needs. And some cultivators began to cultivate with the help of elixirs at a very early age, which naturally opened up a gap with ordinary cultivators. Among these disciples, because of the existence of the bottleneck of cultivation, a step-by-step gap will be formed again. This has caused many cultivators to enter the same batch, with the same spiritual root talents, but their cultivation is very different. For cultivation, resources are necessary, but it is not just resources that really widen the gap in cultivation. Because the spiritual power that you really absorb into your body is constant, it is useless to exceed it. In other words, except for those cultivators with natural spiritual roots and different spiritual roots. In principle, the promotion cycle of ordinary cultivators can be calculated by the daily spiritual energy absorption efficiency. It can be deduced. Therefore, in a short period of time, it is impossible to take shortcuts to promote rapid growth in cultivation. As for the cultivation level of only the 4th level of key refining, which is lower than the cultivation level of the 6th level of key refining, this is often not the key to victory or defeat. The key to victory or defeat often lies in the magic weapon, magic, combat experience, etc. In the key refining period, a cultivator who has just stepped into the threshold of cultivation, the cultivation level can only indicate the total amount of spiritual power in his body. This is like 2 adults making an appointment to play a basketball game. One has practiced for 2.5 years, and the other has practiced for 5 years. Will the winner be the latter? Not necessarily. After thinking about it, the only way to improve one's own strength in the short term is the formation. The 20 or so formations exchanged from the Sutra Pavilion contain almost all the characteristics of the first level formations. After all, there are too many various formations in the Sutra Pavilion, which is simply dazzling. The formations chosen by Luo Yan all have their best aspects in the first level formations. The soul sealing formation can draw away the yang energy in a certain area and suppress the flow of yin energy, thereby achieving the purpose of controlling the wronged souls. The 8 yang formation can gather all the spiritual power of 8 people into one person, achieving the 8 in 1. The cultivation is doubled. The 100-foot stone platform formation can bury the natural boulders of the outside world half a foot underground, creating an excellent dilemma. There is no wind, no sound, and it is extremely quiet. If all the boulders cannot be broken at the same time, then you will be trapped inside forever and cannot get out. The reason why Luo Yan exchanged these formation jade slips is that he wanted to find some inspiration for himself. Used to simplify the Zyokyanized sword formation, Luo Yan's mind was immersed in the information of dozens of various formations. He saw the blue data flying on his retina, and the chip comparison time was getting longer and longer. Are the conditions still insufficient? Luo Yan frowned tightly as he watched the chip analysis rate getting slower and slower. There is still too much lack of key information. Just relying on the basic data of dozens of formations, you want to deduce a perfect formation. It's still too difficult. Many times, the biological intelligence chip can only serve as an auxiliary condition, and it can't subjectively help Luo Yan make decisions. The chip's strengths in data analysis can give Luo Yan a good reference. But what to do, how to choose, and which aspect to choose still depends on Luo Yan himself. To put it simply, if Luo Yan says to the chip, "I'm hungry," The chip will directly reply eat. The two have similar meanings. It is not responsible for cooking. What I need is an offensive and powerful formation. Luo Yan murmured. But if you want a powerful formation, the best priority is the sword formation. The soul sealing formation, the 8 yang formation, and other formations were originally thought to be used as a reference. But Luo Yan's mind called up the information of the Ziokainai sword formation. I originally used the Ziokainai sword formation to fight against senior brother Li Siki of the law enforcement hall. At that time, the Ziokainai sword formation was not effective. However, judging from its power, it should have reached a late stage of ki refining, close to the perfection of ki refining. Senior brother Li Siki's evil spirit body cannot be judged by common sense. Luo Yan's right hand subconsciously knocked on the stone table. The Ziokainai sword formation has 3 layers, and 9 array bases can form a sword formation. That is the first layer. 3 layers totaling 27 array bases, cost him 162 spirit stones. This is in exchange for an attack comparable to that of a cultivator with perfect ki refining. Luo Yan reflected carefully. Although he was satisfied with the power of the Ziokainai sword formation, the consumption was too great. Many ordinary disciples could not earn 100 spirit stones in a year. He wasted it directly. The battles during the outer sect competition must be endless. If he used the Ziokainai sword formation again, Luo Yan was afraid that he would go bankrupt directly. Moreover, the Ziokainai sword formation could not move, which was also a big disadvantage. Others were not stupid. They would avoid it when they saw it from a distance. Or they could directly choose to bombard it with magic from a distance, and Luo Yan could not do anything about them. The flexibility was too poor. Can the operation mode of the Ziokainai sword formation be changed? Luo Yan thought to himself. He originally placed his hopes on the chip, but the task had been established for a long time, and even the analysis time was unknown. Luo Yan knew that he couldn't count on the chip. He wanted the formation to be powerful and easy to release, while consuming less spirit stones. This was indeed a bit difficult. This seemed like an impossible triangle, giving Luo Yan a headache. If he couldn't come up with a better way to replace it, Luo Yan could only use the most clumsy method. That was to set a trap in advance in the competition venue, and then lure the enemy into the trap. If he did that, Luo Yan would appear extremely passive. Whether to fight or stay was entirely in the hands of others. Moreover, too many people could not be trapped in the formation at one time. Once there were too many people inside, even if they were attacking randomly, the strength of the first-level formation would not be able to hold up. After all, the strength of the group of outer disciples was not much different, and almost all of them were at the 6th level of ki refining. Their casual attacks were likely to cause the ordinary formation to collapse directly. These array jade slips I just bought include trap arrays, illusion arrays, and killing arrays, but they are not much different from the arrays I have mastered before. It's nothing more than the complexity of the array layout has increased a little, and it has become more difficult to break the array. If you want to meet all 3 conditions at the same time, it's also wishful thinking. Looking at the huge sutra library, except for a few special arrays, most of the other arrays are not as powerful as the Ziokainai sword array. This is why Luo Yan only exchanged some arrays with obvious characteristics this time, and did not exchange any sword arrays. Those jade slips are used as references to provide data samples for the chip. For a powerful array, the Ziokainai sword array is enough. High power and high consumption, low power and low consumption, and cannot move. Can only one of these 2 points be occupied? Luo Yan had a headache. At this moment, he seemed to be stuck in a dead end. Chapter 68 Bad News. Luo Yan sat in the yard, his fingers constantly moving across the table, his mind churning, and he saw a series of formation diagrams looming on the table. There were traces of tea dripping on it. He muttered to himself, how should a Ziokainai sword formation be optimized to be the most appropriate? Luo Yan was a little helpless. He didn't know where to start so that he could improve his strength again in the shortest time. If he couldn't solve this problem, in this outer sect competition, his chances of grabbing the black chess piece by himself would not be so high. And after grabbing it, he would have to face those who just arrived and saw that he had a black chess piece. Then he had bad intentions. Just when he was at a loss, a warning sound came from the formation outside the courtyard gate. Luo Yan's heart moved slightly, and with a wave of his hand, a pool of clear water appeared on the stone table. The scene outside the courtyard gate was clearly projected on it. A young man about his age, wearing a clean ordinary disciple's Taoist robe, with a bit of trepidation on his face, paced back and forth. He raised his arm several times, trying to knock on the gate, but stopped. He seemed to be hesitating. Yang Zhao? It's already this hour, why did he come to me? Did he sell the things in the storage bag? If so, it won't be too late to give it to me tomorrow. Luo Yan's eyes were full of doubt. Looking at Yang Zhao's uneasy expression, it was likely that he had something to do with him. Come in. The gate opened slowly without wind. A misty path was revealed. Yang Zhao heard a familiar voice in his ears, and saw that the mist on both sides of the gate separated a path that one person could pass through. He no longer hesitated and walked in from the gate. There was a faint fragrance of spiritual medicine in the yard, which came towards him. It was refreshing. Yang Zhao saw senior brother Luo sitting in the yard at first sight. What do you want to talk to me about? Luo Yan pointed to the stone bench opposite, motioning him to sit down and talk. Brother Luo, I'm here to apologize to you. I seem to have messed up the task you entrusted to me. Luo Yan looked at the storage bag handed over by Yang Zhao. There were only 40 or 50 spirit stones in it, and a rusty broken sword. He was stunned for a moment, frowning slightly. The hook chain magic weapon I gave you, only sold for so few spirit stones. Luo Yan's tone was a little unbelievable. After all, it was a low-grade magic weapon. It could still be sold for more than 100 spirit stones. How come it depreciated so much in Yang Zhao's hands? He knew the price of a low-grade magic weapon. Normally, a newly made low-grade magic weapon would sell for between 200 and 300 spirit stones. The price difference is mainly reflected in the spirit materials and the formations engraved inside. The price of a good quality spirit material in a practical formation will naturally be slightly higher. The price of a Taoist robe and boots of the same level will be about 30% more expensive on this basis. The price of defensive instruments is often higher than that of offensive instruments. This is mainly because there are fewer defensive formations in the world of immortal cultivation. A better robe can not only resist fatal damage, it can even be engraved with a spirit-gathering formation inside, which can speed up the recovery of the user's spiritual power. If it is a second-hand instrument, there will be a corresponding depreciation rate. But as long as the quality of the instrument is not damaged, it can generally be sold for 70 to 80% of the original price. This price is reasonable. Even if there are not many users of hook and chain instruments and it is relatively unpopular, it is a low-grade instrument after all. Half the price can sell for at least more than 100 spiritual stones. Not to mention the miscellaneous things in the storage bag, there should be at least dozens of spiritual stones. Now, there are only less than 50 spiritual stones in the storage bag. Luo Yan did not get angry, but just threw the storage bag on the table, his voice still gentle. Tell me, what's going on? Is someone forcing you to buy or sell? Or did someone else steal your spiritual stones? He believed that there was a reason for this. Luo Yan initially suspected that Yang Zhao had embezzled the spirit stones, but then he thought that this man would honestly come back to him. This possibility is very small. What's the matter with the dozens of spirit stones left? If he was bullied again, Luo Yan would seriously consider whether Yang Zhao was suitable to stay by his side. Is it worth keeping him? He can't let himself be affected just because he wants to verify whether his European emperor guess is true. With the care of an outer disciple, he can be bullied again. This weak character is probably not suitable to help him continue to do things. However, the specific reason still needs to be heard from Yang Zhao himself. Luo Yan is very patient, and there is no dissatisfaction on his face. He is not concerned about these spirit stones, but Yang Zhao's ability to do things. If this little thing can't be handled well, Luo Yan has no reason to help him again. It's good that he can see potential in Yang Zhao, and it's also okay if he works hard. If neither of them is occupied, then he will become a boss. Luo Yan didn't have the ability to ask an old man to help him. He was curious about Yang Zhao's European emperor aura, but that was all. After all, it was born with him, and he couldn't envy it. The reason why Luo Yan asked Yang Zhao for help was that he wanted to find an assistant who could help him deal with trivial matters. He didn't want to find someone who would do him a disservice. No, neither. Yang Zhao's face turned pale, and he stood up from the stool in a flash. He kept denying it. He was not bullied by his peers. But he didn't know if this was a forced sale. But the behavior of the white-haired old Taoist priest was no different from that of a robber. He took his things without his consent. I took the hook and chain magic weapon that senior brother Luo gave me to the market shop at the foot of the mountain to inquire about the price as soon as possible, and found that the recycling prices they gave were all similar. It was only about 170 or 80 spirit stones. Luo Yan nodded. The price was about what he expected. He had been in contact with the shopkeeper queen of the sect's business for such a long time, and he had a general understanding of the prices in the market. After all, it was a task assigned to me by my senior brother. If it was to be thrown in the market, senior brother Luo would have gone there himself, so why should I run errands? So I set up a stall in the square of the market to sell this hook chain magic weapon. I marked the price at 230 spirit stones, and those who want it can discuss it in detail. Unfortunately, most of the disciples stopped to observe, but no one bought it. Yang Zhao's face was a little embarrassed, which was a little different from what he expected. He originally thought that it was very simple to deal with these things. What he didn't expect was that selling things was not that easy. There were still too few monks who used hook chain magic weapons. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Broken Sword. After I waited in the market town at the foot of the mountain for most of the day, I felt that if this continued, it would be difficult to help my senior brother quickly dispose of the hook and chain magic weapon in his hand. Therefore, that afternoon, I ran to Wufang City, which was 100 miles away. Although there were not as many cultivators there as in the sect market, their purchasing power was unmatched by ordinary disciples. With this idea in mind, I stayed in Wufang City for a full day and a half. During this period, I cleaned up all the debris in the storage bag and exchanged it for 48 spirit stones. Until this morning. Yang Zhao's face was filled with memories. He told the specific things that happened in the past few days one by one. Luo Yan was not in a hurry. He didn't urge him to get to the point directly. He picked up the teacup in his hand and took a sip. I met a strange Taoist with gray hair who stopped in front of my stall for a long time. He kept staring at me. I thought he wanted this hook chain magic weapon, so I let him quote his own price. If it was suitable, I would sell the magic weapon to him. Who would have thought that he would say to me, "Little kid, I see that you have earlobes, a full forehead, a broad face, and you must be very talented. I have an ancestral sword, and I would like to exchange it for your hook and chain magic weapon." When he said this, Yang Zhao's expression showed some resentment, as if something incredible had happened. I wanted to refuse directly, but I opened my mouth and couldn't say anything. I couldn't even make a sound. The whole person seemed to be out of control, fixed in place without moving, only my eyeballs could move. I don't know how long it took, but when I came to my senses, the white-haired Taoist had disappeared, and he also took away the hook and chain magic weapon that I put on the ground to sell. Only this rusty broken sword was left to me. Yang Zhao's voice was filled with grievance. Speaking of which, he was only 13 years old. Still a teenager. Not only was he bullied by his good friends a few days ago, but now an old Taoist priest he met outside also bullied him. Yang Zhao was not stupid, he could make him unable to speak and his body was imprisoned in the same place without moving. This must be a prank by some senior. He was already very pitiful, and now someone came to bully him. The old thing was disrespectful. Thinking about it, his eyes became a little red. It was like this when he was a child, incompatible with others, not sociable, and always alone. It's still like this now. Obviously, he met senior brother Luo, a good man who was willing to hand things over to him, but he still messed it up. But Yang Zhao didn't have many spirit stones in his pocket because he also had to practice normally. But no matter what, even if senior brother Luo beat and scolded him and no longer asked him to help run errands, he would find a way to return the spirit stone of the hook and chain magic weapon to him as soon as possible. Yang Zhao's eyes were full of determination. He planned to find a way to compensate his senior brother for the spirit stones. After listening to Yang Zhao's story, Luo Yan was silent for a moment. He picked up the storage bag again and took out a broken sword. He carefully examined the broken sword in his hand. It was rusty and ordinary, with nothing special about it. If he got closer, he could still smell the rust on it. "I don't eat people, why are you standing so far away? Come and sit down." Luo Yan glanced at Yang Zhao, who was standing obediently beside the stone table with his head down, like a child who had done something wrong. He couldn't help but feel a little funny. There was inevitably a hint of solemnity in his tone. Luo Yan didn't blame him, so why did he look like that? Luo Yan didn't doubt the truthfulness of Yang Zhao's words. He thought he was quite good at judging people. As long as it wasn't the kind of old fox who had lived for many years, he believed that he would not make the wrong judgment among people of the same age. Yang Zhao shouldn't have lied to him. For some reason, the old man threw him a broken sword and took away his hook and chain magic weapon. Besides, if he was lying to him, there was no need to make up such a clumsy lie. If Luo Yan hadn't guessed the magic in Yang Zhao, he would probably subconsciously think that he was deliberately making trouble. Luo Yan used his spiritual sense to explore the broken sword, and found nothing strange. He input spiritual power into it again, but couldn't input it at all. It was as if this was really an ordinary broken sword in the mortal world. It couldn't conduct spiritual power. Except for the reddish-brown rust, there was nothing unusual. Luo Yan held a broken sword, his eyes showing a thoughtful look. Did Yang Zhao get cheated? For a moment, Luo Yan questioned Yang Zhao's aura of being a European emperor. He wondered if he had guessed wrong. Yang Zhao was actually a boy who occasionally had better luck, and he didn't have any lucky aura. Chip, detect a broken sword information. Detection begins. Unknown broken sword. Material? Attribute? Spiritual power conduction? Luo Yan took a breath of cold air. This is all unknown. This means that this broken sword is far from being as simple as it seems. You know, with Luo Yan's current database. Basically, ordinary materials cannot be hidden from the detection of the chip. After all, Luo Yan has used chips to back up the common ores in the weapon refining hall. But now an unknown situation has appeared. It means that the material of this broken sword is not any common one. And the spiritual power conduction is unknown, which further shows that this broken sword can actually transmit spiritual power. It's just that Luo Yan can't use it. If the spiritual power cannot be conducted, the chip will directly give the information of no. Thinking of this, Luo Yan glanced at Yang Zhao in front of him, and saw that he still looked like he was lowering his head and admitting his mistakes obediently and sincerely. Have you never used this broken sword? Yang Zhao heard this, although he was a little surprised, but still nodded seriously. When I got it, I saw that it was in a tattered state. I felt it was a pity to throw it away, so I put it in the storage bag. Then, with a nervous mood, I came to report the specific situation to senior brother Luo as soon as possible. Luo Yan glanced at the young man with a little strangeness in his eyes. You know, there is no horse rental near the sect, and Wufang City is 100 miles away from here. In addition, what Yang Zhao just said, this kind of thing that happened in the morning, now it has reached him in the evening. It seems that this kid runs very fast. This serious attitude made Luo Yan's mouth curl up slightly. He handed the broken sword to Yang Zhao. Put your spiritual power in it and try it. Luo Yan had a bold guess, but he was not sure yet, so he had to test it. Although Yang Zhao was puzzled, he still did it obediently. He took the broken sword and then put his spiritual power into it. At first, the broken sword did not respond at all. Then, as Yang Zhao continued to input spiritual power, the broken sword actually had a sudden sound of sword ringing. The blade of the broken sword began to undergo subtle changes. Chapter 70, The broken sword of the magic weapon absorbs spiritual power at an increasingly faster speed. After half an incense stick, Yang Zhao's face turned pale. The spiritual power in his body was exhausted. He could not bear it any longer. Fortunately, Luo Yan, who was standing by, was quick to put his hand on Yang Zhao's shoulder. Then he passed his spiritual power to Yang Zhao. At the same time, he guided the spirit gathering array in the yard to draw the spiritual energy over and gather it into a huge spiritual light ball, surrounding him. Luo Yan's spiritual power went through Yang Zhao's body. Then it was quickly absorbed by the broken sword. Slowly, the rusty broken sword began to change significantly. The original reddish-brown spots gradually fell off, revealing the dark sword body hidden inside. It seemed as if the whole body was emitting a bright black light, which was soul-stirring. Finally, the broken sword stopped absorbing spiritual power and became no longer dazzling. Yang Zhao stared blankly at the broken sword in his hand. He couldn't understand why it was still rusty just now, but changed its appearance in just a moment. Yang Zhao released the broken sword, and the broken sword went wherever his mind went. It was like using an arm. It was like a flying sword. The broken sword flew around in the yard, following him like a shadow. Is this a magic weapon? Luo Yan looked at the scene in front of him, a little unsure. He saw that Yang Zhao could make the broken sword fly out of thin air without using any spiritual power. It felt like he was controlling the sword with his spiritual consciousness. It was similar to the sword control technique. However, Yang Zhao definitely did not use the sword control technique, because there was no exchange information for the sword control technique in the sutra library. Maybe you can only have a chance to see it after you get to the headquarters. It is said that magic weapons have spirits, and today I have learned a lot. Taking the broken sword from Yang Zhao's hand, the originally shining appearance instantly became dim. It was like recognizing a person. This sword only recognizes Yang Zhao, and it is useless to others. Luo Yan held it like scrap metal, and he had just borrowed Yang Zhao's body and input his own spiritual power. The broken sword was still eating happily. But when he held the broken sword in his hand and sent spiritual power again, it was like mud sinking into the sea, with no reaction. It was as if it was treated differently. Thinking of this, Luo Yan couldn't help but have a black line on his forehead. This broken sword is obviously spiritual, but it pretends to be dead. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that the broken sword was doing it on purpose. He couldn't help but feel funny. A broken sword, as if it had become his spirit. Recognizing people. Despite this, although the broken sword has restrained its edge, Luo Yan can still find some abnormalities from its gap. It is somewhat different from ordinary magic tools. Is this a rune? He carefully examined the gap of the broken sword, his eyes motionless. He was very focused. The faint silver lines were very similar to the rune arches that Luo Yan had seen on the Hall of Supreme Harmony. However, the broken sword in front of him only had half of it, and the rune seemed incomplete. It is hard to imagine what caused it to suffer such a heavy blow. Even the treasure light is dim. However, the way of engraving runes in the sword body made him narrow his eyes slightly. Luo Yan's mind suddenly moved, and he thought of the formation engraved on the body of the King Guang sword. If I engrave the formation base of the Ziokidanai sword formation in the magic weapon long sword, is it possible to achieve the purpose of setting up the formation with swords? The light in Luo Yan's eyes became brighter and brighter. He felt that the feasibility of this idea was very high. If it is done in this way, even if only 9 flying swords are used, the power will be multiplied. Not to mention using a complete set of 27 flying swords. Wouldn't it be overwhelming by then? After all, the formation base used for the sword formation before was just an ordinary formation plate. Now that the flying sword is used as the formation base, it is not only convenient to carry, but also can materialize the attack. The operating principle of the Ziokidanai sword formation is to absorb the spiritual energy in the spirit stone through the formation pattern and transform it into sword energy. Attack the enemy. If the sword energy can be transformed into a materialized attack, the power will naturally be multiplied. No, that's not right. Luo Yan suppressed his excitement. If he engraved the formation on the sword, it would be very difficult to engrave the patterns on those extremely tough spiritual materials. The price of 27 flying swords alone was beyond Luo Yan's reach. Even if it was the lowest grade inferior magic weapon, 27 of them would drain all his current wealth. And if he wanted this sword formation to be powerful, the quality of the flying swords must be good. He couldn't spend a lot of money and end up with an imperfect sword formation. That would be too uneconomical. Therefore, the way to engrave the formation patterns on the flying swords had to be changed. No wonder he could hardly see a complete set of flying sword formation magic weapons for sale in the market. A random set of this stuff is an astronomical figure. It's not something that ordinary cultivators can afford. A King Guang sword alone would cost more than 1,000 contribution points. 27 would probably cost tens of thousands of spirit stones. It would be enough for the foundation building. It is only used to improve strength in a certain period of time. When his cultivation is higher, he will not need it. By then, the 27 flying swords that he had spent a lot of money to buy will not be able to be sold. Because the formation base of the Ziokidanai sword formation is engraved on it, there is no other place to engrave other formations. If you want to sell it, you can only pack it together and sell it outside. However, a sword formation can only be used in the key refining stage, and it costs tens of thousands of spirit stones. Luo Yan believes that there must be very few guys with such special spirit stones. It is almost impossible to sell it in a short time. After all, this is only a magic weapon for the key refining stage. so the quality of the flying sword can be higher, but the formation pattern on it cannot be changed. Luo Yan withdrew his hand from Yang Zhao's shoulder, pacing in the yard, thinking. The formation pattern has changed, and the function of the flying sword will become single. It can only be used as a sword formation in the future. When I reach the late stage of key refining, or even after the foundation establishment stage, it will not be convenient to sell this sword formation to make a profit. Luo Yan shook his head. It was undoubtedly a stupid idea to sell a set of flying swords. If it was a set of flying sword formations for the foundation establishment stage or the golden core stage, there should be a large market. However, if it can only be used in the key refining stage, it seems a bit uneconomical. The cost of tens of thousands of spirit stones, not to mention that Luo Yan does not have so many spirit stones. Even if he did, he would not spend the spirit stones on this. Adding a few more spirit stones would be enough to buy a low-level magic weapon. Just like the broken sword in Yang Zhao's hand. Even if it is broken and incomplete, its value is not as high as before. But it is still of the quality of the magic weapon. It is naturally very easy to resell it. In the world of cultivating immortals, the rank of magic weapons is higher than that of all magic tools. And the price of magic weapons is often high. In the hands of many foundation-building monks, because they cannot afford a good magic weapon, they can only use the best magic tools as a transition. This shows that the rarity of magic weapons is far beyond the comparison of magic tools. Chapter 71 Rune Categories. If we can't find a way on the flying sword, then where should we start? Luo Yan's eyes kept changing. A broken sword at the level of the magic weapon can have a simple autonomous consciousness, and can attack others continuously according to the user's consciousness. It is more convenient than the sword control technique. It's just not as sharp as the sword control technique. So how does the autonomous consciousness of the magic weapon come about? Luo Yan was puzzled. After pondering for a while without any results, he decisively called the chip. 0. Detect the reason why the broken sword has consciousness. Detection begins. Unknown magic weapon broken sword. 1. Self-spiritual. 2. Wipe out the soul of a conscious creature and seal it into the broken sword. Comprehensive comparison. Insufficient database information. It is recommended that the subject provide more samples of the use of the broken sword. Seeing this analysis result, Luo Yan was stunned. The chip means that the reason for the magic weapon level weapon to produce spiritual consciousness is either natural, or other conscious creatures are sealed into the sword body. Both can achieve the purpose of making the magic weapon alive. Luo Yan knows a little about the difference between magic weapons and life magic weapons through the books in the Sutra Pavilion. Ordinary magic weapons can be used in the foundation building period. Any cultivator with a high level of cultivation can use it. It doesn't matter who you are. The power is fixed. The life magic weapon is a weapon that can only be used by cultivators at the giant level and above. High-level cultivators nurture the magic weapon embryo in their bodies, and then continuously integrate various rare materials to improve the quality of the magic weapon. In the long run, the grade of the life magic weapon will naturally rise. The power will also be greatly improved. After a long time of nurturing, the life magic weapon will produce a simple autonomous spiritual consciousness. As simple as a newborn. However, although the power of the life magic weapon is large enough, but once it is damaged, the host using the magic weapon will also suffer heavy damage. It is a win-win situation. This broken sword will be an ordinary magic weapon with self-awareness. Or it is the life magic weapon of a high-level cultivator. Luo Yan thought. After careful consideration for a while, he found that he had no clue. But with the prompt of the chip, Luo Yan did as he said. Although he couldn't use this broken sword, there were people who could. Do you know swordsmanship? Use your consciousness to control the broken sword and practice a set of swordsmanship for me. Luo Yan's eyes stayed on the broken sword for a long time, then turned his head and said to Yang Zhao beside him. Ah, swordsmanship? I haven't learned swordsmanship, I only know some of the most basic moves, is that okay? Yang Zhao looked a little embarrassed. He exchanged the contribution points he earned from completing tasks for a better set of skills, and then it was gone. He had no extra contribution points to exchange for swordsmanship. However, when he saw Brother Luo nodded, he immediately obeyed and did as he was told. Yang Zhao took a deep breath and took the broken sword in his hand. He was stunned for a moment, as if he was guided by the broken sword. Yang Zhao's posture instantly became much taller. An invisible aura slowly emanated from him. Yang Zhao seemed to be able to see a little man living in the broken sword. It jumped into his consciousness all of a sudden, connecting them. He gave orders to the little man. Stab. The dim light on the broken sword became brighter, slightly dazzling, and broke through the air. Chop. The red dim light on the broken sword did not diminish, carrying a strong sword energy, from top to bottom, in an instant. Gradually, Yang Zhao seemed to be immersed in it. At this moment, he seemed like a master of swordsmanship, and every move was powerful. Yang Zhao was like a playful child, dancing with his sword. Can't stop. Dancing with great joy. Luo Yan, who was standing next to Yang Zhao, was now fully aware of his consciousness, with a blazing blue light in his eyes. As the broken sword changed again and again, the traces of runes at the gap bloomed, and were completely recorded by Luo Yan with a chip. However, Yang Zhao's behavior of communicating with the broken sword's spiritual consciousness with his spiritual consciousness did not last long. After a moment, it stopped. His spiritual consciousness felt a faint pain, as if it was exhausted. Luo Yan gave him a tranquilizing pill and let him rest for a while. Then he asked Yang Zhao to hold the broken sword and not to think too much about it. Just transfer spiritual power. Just swing the broken sword occasionally. But Yang Zhao held the broken sword across Luo Yan most of the time. When the moon faded and the sky was dimly lit, Luo Yan asked Yang Zhao to give up the sword dance. Yang Zhao suddenly fell to the ground like a puddle of mud. His eyes were blurred. He actually fell into deep sleep and snored slightly. He ran 100 miles during the day and held the sword all night. Now he finally couldn't hold on any longer. Luo Yan's words were like the sound of nature, which made him completely relax. Originally, Yang Zhao's eyelids were fighting, but now he just wanted to have a good sleep. He felt so tired. And the blue light in Luo Yan's eyes became more and more intense, shining and shining, as bright as starlight. Chi. Luo Yan made a move, and the green sword in the storage bag flew out by itself and floated in the air. Follow your heart and dance with the sword. He did not use his own spiritual power, but used his spiritual consciousness to control the sword. The power of the King Guang sword was indeed improved by more than one level. However, he was not a sword cultivator. Even if the power of the spiritual consciousness to control the sword was considerable, his sword skills were poor. Moreover, the spiritual consciousness consumed by the spiritual consciousness to control the sword. Luo Yan frowned and thought to himself, this spiritual consciousness power is consumed too quickly. Just think about it. If the spiritual consciousness to control the sword is so easy, the sword control technique would not be praised by all sword cultivators. Sword cultivators must have a way to enhance their spiritual consciousness. Rune analysis completed. Just as his thoughts were flying, the mechanical sound of the chip came from his mind, and Luo Yan subconsciously showed a trace of joy. Unknown magic weapon broken sword, rune functions, receiving, positioning, and controlling spirits. The rune categories of the rune arch and the Hall of Supreme Harmony can be roughly divided into 47 categories. Each arrangement and combination is inconsistent. Comparing the rune patterns at the gap of the broken sword, it is similar to the 21st, 34th, and 45th categories. After multiple simulations, the 21st and 45th rune categories are excluded. The information of the 34th rune category has been listed separately, please check. The picture in Luo Yan's mind was now covered by 11 illusory runes floating in the air. The rune category mentioned by the chip does not only refer to one rune, but 11. 11 runes make up one category. The number of runes on a rune arch alone exceeds 500. No wonder it can detect a person's specific qualifications, and it can even detect what kind of practice is most appropriate for oneself. This is more intuitive than perspective. However, what Luo Yan did not expect was that the chip could detect 11 runes in such a small cross-cut gap of the broken sword. It is incredible. Chapter 72, Equipment Refining Hall. The individual runes are irregular, and look a bit like some kind of random graffiti, but also have an inexplicable charm. The lines on it are extremely complex, and others feel dizzy just by looking at it, let alone copying it. This is just one rune. If the chip did not have a powerful copying function, Luo Yan alone would never be able to remember this rune composed of dense lines. Moreover, the strokes between runes are similar, and if you don't look carefully, you can't tell them apart at all. Perhaps this is why the 5 Elements Temple restricts runes, and you have to go to the headquarters to access the knowledge related to runes. It's just because the complexity of this thing exceeds everything Luo Yan has come into contact with so far. Even if it is placed in the Sutra Pavilion, few people will practice it. After all, this thing is different from magic. It is more like a kind of knowledge that is only used when drawing talismans. And in the process of drawing runes, the pen tip must be spiritual, moving like a snake, and passing it in one stroke. If there is a fault in the pen tip, there will be problems with the transmission of spiritual power. Then all the efforts were in vain. All the previous efforts were wasted. Luo Yan once found it strange. Why are there all kinds of jade slips from the first grade low to high grade in the Sutra Library for alchemy, refining, and formations? But there is only a basic encyclopedia of talismans. The Sutra Library does not have the drawing methods of talismans of the first grade medium and above. If you want talismans, you can only exchange them in the merit hall or the market. I didn't expect the root cause to be here. It's like a strange language. You can memorize some of the sentences in it by rote. Use them in certain specific occasions. But beyond special occasions, you will seem a little overwhelmed when you communicate with others. It seems that the first thing to do after going to the headquarters is to learn the runes as soon as possible. Luo Yan made up his mind. He is a little different from other cultivators. With the help of the biological intelligence chip, he prefers to explore the essence of everything. To understand from the source. After all, there are too many places in the cultivation world where runes can be used. Including the magic he performed, they are actually released through the power of communication runes. With these 11 rune categories, Luo Yan has a way to optimize the Zyokainai sword formation as expected. His initial idea is to create a sword formation box. Engrave these 11 runes inside, and then engrave the formation base of the Zyokainai sword formation into it. With a superposition of the two, as long as enough spiritual energy can be supplied to the box can release sword energy to fight the enemy. Or insert the flying sword into it and use the power of the sword formation to drive the flying sword to fight the enemy. There is a general name for this type of box in the cultivation world, sword box. However, because it requires the use of formations and runes at the same time, only those who are proficient in these two aspects can refine it. As a result, fewer and fewer people use sword boxes in the cultivation world today. In the final analysis, the threshold for using this sword box is too high. Ordinary disciples can't even reach the edge. And if the user of a powerful sword formation does not understand the formation, it is very likely to hurt himself. You can't just go and learn formations and runes just to use a weapon. If the formation was so simple to get started, Misi would not charge so much for setting up a spirit gathering formation. Then people would hate him. Misi's existence shows that formation masters are rare. Therefore, the decline of the sword box is inevitable. Most cultivators fight in a straightforward way. For example, sword cultivators. Go forward courageously, as long as the sword is there, cultivate a sword heart, and you will be invincible. People like them who are arrogant look down on those who fight by means other than their own spiritual power. There are also formation masters. Their status is lofty. Just the field of formation has consumed most of their minds. If they go to learn runes, there is no need. Moreover, real high-level formation masters will carry simple formation plates with them when fighting, and throw them out directly when encountering enemies. The formation can be set up in an instant. Whether it is to destroy the enemy or to stop the pursuers, it has a miraculous effect. This is somewhat overlapping with the function of the sword box. Strictly speaking, it is not wrong to understand the sword box as a kind of formation plate. It is just the use of runes superimposed. Luo Yan now has no access to higher-level array disc production. There is no jade slip in the Sutra library that introduces how to engrave the sword array into the array disc. Therefore, Luo Yan can only think of ways to improve it himself. He's thinking of combining runes and arrays. This is the most likely way he can think of to increase strength in a short period of time. However, Luo Yan is not 100% sure whether the combination of the Zyokainai sword array and the runes on the broken sword can achieve the expected effect. He has to experiment. Thinking of this, Luo Yan can no longer sit still. He was just about to go to the refining hall to find some materials for engraving arrays, but found Yang Zhao lying on the ground. After a moment of hesitation, he used his spiritual power to teleport Yang Zhao to the bed where he usually meditated and breathed. Then Luo Yan left the courtyard and went straight to the refining hall. The refining hall is located on the back of the fire path peak, where a fire vein is drawn. It is very suitable for refining. However, because of the isolation of the array, the outside world cannot hear any sound inside the refining hall. Unlike the green vegetation on the wood spirit peak, the fire element peak is a sea of red. This is because the trees on the mountain are almost all red. Under the guidance of the fire vein, it is difficult for ordinary plants to survive on the fire element peak. So, all of them are planted with this red spiritual wood. This is a first-grade low-grade spiritual wood with fire attribute, which is an excellent material for making spiritual carbon. The older the tree, the higher the grade. It can reach the highest first-grade upper grade. It has a wide range of uses. The moment Luo Yan stepped into the range of the fire element peak, he could feel an oncoming heat wave. The water molecules in the air are extremely scarce. The fire attribute spiritual energy here is too abundant. It makes Luo Yan feel like he is in a desert. It is very uncomfortable. However, this is only a comparison with the environment on the wood spirit peak. Seriously speaking, although the temperature on the fire element peak is relatively high, it can also achieve twice the result with half the effort for the cultivation of fire attribute cultivators. Luo Yan hung the identity jade card on his waist, went up the fire element peak, and went straight to the back mountain. After walking for about a cup of tea, they saw a magnificent red building. When they arrived at the main entrance, Luo Yan saw a stone erected in front of the door, on which was written, "The weapon hall is a restricted area, no one is allowed to enter." He placed his identity jade card on the big stone at the entrance. The weapon refining hall, which was shrouded in a light curtain, had a gap that could be passed by a single person. Entering the light curtain, the temperature inside the weapon refining hall was a little lower than that on the five elements peak. But it was still equally dry. Chapter 73 Carnelian. As the scenery on both sides continued to recede, Luo Yan finally arrived at the destination of this trip. The weapon refining hall. At the counter, there was a senior sister who was dressed relatively coolly. She was wearing a fiery red dress, and a red tag was tied around the exposed part of her waist. Meet Senior Sister Yuan. This was not the first time Luo Yan came here, so he was naturally very familiar with the senior sister from the weapon refining hall. Although the senior sister always smiled, her cultivation was in the late stage of key refining. In other words, whether it was the alchemy hall, the weapon refining hall, or the general affairs hall, the people in charge of this aspect were at least cultivators in the late stage of key refining. Luo Yan was very clear about the rules of the weapon refining hall. Neither the weapon refining hall nor the alchemy hall would take the initiative to sell magic tools and elixirs to their disciples. Of course, private customization was an exception. The magic tools and elixirs refined by the weapon refining hall and the alchemy hall will be placed in the merit hall for unified pricing and sale. The reason for doing this is to ensure the purity of these two technical halls. Because of the technical reasons of alchemists and weapon refiners, the quality of the things they refine is naturally different. If there is no strong supervisor, it is easy to have problems. For example, the key gathering pill is used by almost all ordinary disciples. If it is not tested by a third department, it will be sold. Like the key gathering pill of the quality that Luo Yan once made, it was taken by ordinary disciples. Originally, he was preparing to break through the realm, but was caught off guard by the disorder of spiritual power. At the least, the breakthrough failed and he could not break through again in the short term. At the worst, he went crazy and said goodbye to cultivation forever. This is why the sect wants to set up a separate merit hall. If there is no unified standard, let the alchemy hall and the refining hall sell independently, it is easy to have quality problems. After all, not all alchemists and weapon refiners are of high level. There are always those with poor levels. Or the quality of the refined finished products is not up to standard, but they are reluctant to throw them away and want to make up the numbers. For various reasons, the merit hall was born. Brother Luo, why are you here? If you want to exchange something again this time, just look for yourself and tell me. Or you want to customize a magic weapon. You all know the rules, so I won't repeat them. A smile appeared on the corner of Sister Yuan's mouth, and her white jade-like slender fingers pointed to the location of the middle courtyard. There were samples of various refining materials piled there. Like a hodgepodge. Luo Yan heard the greeting and bowed respectfully to Sister Yuan's position to express his gratitude. A moment later, he came to the middle courtyard of the refining hall. It was much larger than the front hall of the refining hall. It was not as messy as imagined, but rather orderly. There was a line of small characters next to each piece of ore and each small piece of spiritual wood. Luo Yan's goal was to give priority to finding materials that could be used to carve arrays. It would be best if it was jade. In the world of immortal cultivation, of the same grade, the best conductor of spiritual energy is jade, followed by spiritual silk used to make Taoist robes, and then spiritual wood. Finally, it was hard spiritual ore. Because each material has a different degree of transmission of spiritual energy, it is naturally divided into different uses. Jade is generally used by array masters to make array plates. But this thing is fragile and should be avoided from strong collisions. Hard spiritual ore is usually used to make magic tools. This is why some high-quality Taoist robes can be painted with spirit-gathering arrays, but on attacking magic tools, if it is not a weapon refiner, it is almost impossible for others to draw rays on them. Because the hardness of spiritual ore is beyond the imagination of ordinary people, without the help of earth fire or the spiritual fire unique to foundation building, even the ore cannot be melted. Secondly, the conductivity of jade and spiritual ore to spiritual power is not on the same level. The spiritual ore sacrificed the spiritual power conductivity and made up for it in hardness. Jade has a high spiritual power transmission rate, but its strength and hardness are not enough. So it is mostly used to make array plates. Luo Yan's thoughts are very clear. If he wants to draw all the sword arrays and runes in one box, then the conductivity of spiritual power will become particularly important. His first priority is naturally jade. The area ahead was filled with some common spiritual ores and spiritual wood. Luo Yan did not hesitate and walked all the way to the back until he stopped at the jade area. Every time he touched a piece, he would input spiritual energy with his hands to sense it. Finally, he found a palm-sized translucent red chalcedony. The texture was very delicate and soft. A light breath would cause a thick blood-like mist to appear on it. Excellent spiritual power conductivity. However, the price mark next to it made Luo Yan feel a little unsteady. 700 contribution points. He did not dare to look at the jade stones further down. Too expensive. The further back he went, the more expensive the jade stones became. He was afraid that if he continued to look at it like this, he would not be able to afford even a piece of stone. It was just a waste of trouble. If he just let it go, Luo Yan would be a little unwilling. If this red chalcedony was used to draw sword formation, the spiritual power would flow almost unimpeded inside. It was simply perfect. It was just that the cost was a bit high, so high that Luo Yan himself could not accept it. Because in order to set up a complete Zyokainai sword formation, at least 8 more pieces of this red chalcedony must be found. Luo Yan hesitated for a moment, but still took the red chalcedony, and exchanged it for a large piece of inferior black star jade. A piece of sword bamboo. The spiritual power conductivity of black star jade is second only to red chalcedony, but the price is much lower. More than 100 contribution points can buy a large piece. The sword bamboo is what Luo Yan is going to use to wrap the red chalcedony. Although it is a kind of spiritual wood, it is very hard and light. It is just right to protect the jade inside. Prevent the jade in the sword box from being directly hidden and broken. Sister Yuan looked at the things Luo Yan chose. Her beautiful eyes were surprised, but she didn't ask too many questions. Everyone has their own ideas. Sister Yuan, I also want to issue a task. Help me melt these 2 pieces of jade together, and then divide them into 27 small pieces. Luo Yan swiped the contribution point over and said. Senior Sister Yuan nodded, took out a communication talisman, flew into the backyard and disappeared. A moment later, a burly bald man came out. He had a leather hanging in front of him, and his forehead was covered with sweat. There was a strong smell of fireworks on his body. Even though Luo Yan was far away from him, he could still smell the smell of sweat, spiritual ore slag, and spiritual wood fragments. It's hard to describe. The bald man walked straight to the counter, picked up the 2 pieces of jade, and left. Luo Yan waited quietly in the lobby, and it seemed that more than an hour had passed. The bald man came out again and threw the melted jade to Senior Sister Yuan. Luo Yan took the jade from Senior Sister Yuan, then turned and left. Chapter 74 The Man with 2 Swords. At this moment, a tall and strong figure appeared at the door, with strong muscles exposed and a pair of linen shoes on his feet. He carried 2 long swords on his back, one on the left and one on the right, forming an oblique cross. His hair was casually tied up with a straw rope, looking a little unruly, with a resolute expression on his face. The man with 2 swords on his back seemed indifferent, and his glance at Luo Yan was full of scrutiny. Just one glance, Luo Yan was struck by lightning. In a trance, A sword light that cut through the sky came straight towards him. Luo Yan did not avoid it, and the water state of mind on his body emerged involuntarily, blocking the sword intent. Like a transparent glass cover, it covered him inside. The two stopped at the door at the same time and stood there. Their eyes met. The two figures were like two black and white worlds, confronting each other invisibly. I smell the breath of artistic conception on you, but it doesn't seem to be very pure. It seems that you don't trust it. The man with two swords on his back stopped. His face was neither sad nor happy, his eyes were calm, as if nothing would attract his attention. He gave people a sense of indifference that kept people away from him. He was stating something that could not be more ordinary. The artistic conception on Luo Yan aroused his interest. It was rare for him to meet someone who could make him want to fight. Eating can fill your stomach, and so can the fasting pills. The artistic conception is just a means to achieve the goal. As long as the goal can be achieved, is the process important. Luo Yan's breath was like the sea, and his eyes were deep, blocking the amazing sword intent outside. No retreat. I have learned the meaning of this 3-foot-long sword for many years, and I have never failed. It can be seen that there are many mediocre and inactive people in this world who only know how to show off their tongues. The man with two swords on his back spoke, with a sword light flashing in his eyes, and a trembling beam of light, unfathomable. People tend to have preconceived ideas and cast malice on ideas that are contrary to their own. They do not recognize any other ideas. After wearing a mask for a long time, although the mask on the face can be taken off at any time, the prejudice in the heart can never be taken off. Luo Yan responded with a gentle smile, and the light in his eyes was as vast as the ocean, embracing everything. Hearing the tit-for-tat dialogue between the two, Sister Yuan, who was leaning against a counter, was startled, and her graceful figure inadvertently revealed a beautiful arc. Two little geniuses are arguing here. Will they fight? Sister Yuan had a faint smile on her lips, and stroked her black hair hanging behind her shoulders. She was charming and moving. She was watching the show, and the light in her beautiful eyes flowed, and her eyelashes trembled. Luo Yan's reply made the man with two swords on his back silent for a while. He looked at Luo Yan deeply, and finally there was a hint of strangeness on his indifferent face, and then he said, "Leon," as if he was introducing himself. Luo Yan seemed a little surprised when he heard this. He was not used to this direct way of greeting. But he quickly reacted, "Luo Yan." After exchanging their names, they passed each other and met each other. They got to know each other. When Luo Yan walked out of the hall, the tight string was loosened. The man named Leon just now was so strong. The sword intent gave him a suffocating feeling of oppression, as if he would be torn apart at any time. He was in the range of the sword intent, as if it was airtight, covering the sky and the earth, and everywhere. Fortunately, Luo Yan himself also comprehended the artistic conception of water. Otherwise, under the oppressive sword intent of that person just now, ordinary cultivators might not even be able to fight back. Let others slaughter them. Is this the sword intent that can be called the king among all artistic conceptions? Luo Yan's eyes were slightly pondering. Until today, he finally witnessed the horror of sword cultivation. Half-baked people like Lin Lu don't count. In front of Lin Lu, even if he couldn't defeat him, he could still use the power of the talisman to run away. When Luo Yan faced this man named Leon, he felt that his cultivation was not high, but his difficulty was more than doubled. Within the range of Leon's sword intent, if he met those ordinary disciples who didn't know what the artistic conception was, it would be a luxury to even move a footstep. It is conceivable how terrifying this pure sword cultivator is. After crossing the light curtain and leaving the weapon refining hall, Luo Yan saw a girl wearing an ordinary Taoist robe standing at the door. She had a little baby fat on her face, her eyelashes trembled, and her white and crystal round face showed a little innocence. Seeing that a strange man came out of the light curtain, not the one she had been thinking about, the girl's hopeful eyes dimmed instantly. "What? Leon, that idiot, actually asked me, a girl, to wait for him outside. It's too much? I don't know how long I have to wait." The girl pouted, tugged at the corner of her clothes, and complained in her low voice. Hearing this familiar name, Luo Yan's footsteps paused for a moment, and then he left here as if nothing had happened. He had a hunch that this outer sect competition would be unusually lively. Combined with the information that the girl in front of the door accidentally revealed, how could Luo Yan not guess that Leon was just like him? A disciple who joined the Five Elements Temple last year. That is, what the sect calls a true genius. The disciples who entered the outer sect at the same time have finally begun to show up one after another. Luo Yan's eyes were filled with a hint of expectation. He wanted to see how the top geniuses of their class were doing after 2 years. Is there a gap between him and them? Lian's sword intent is indeed amazing, but whether he can beat them or not, he still has to fight to know. After his own Zyokainai sword formation is optimized, he will directly cover whoever he doesn't like with a set of formations. Without the cultivation of the late stage of key refining, let's see how he can resist. Therefore, Luo Yan believes that he is fully capable of competing with anyone in this outer sect competition. When Luo Yan returned to his courtyard, he saw that Yang Zhao had not woken up yet, so he took out the smelted jade and placed it on the stone table. The first thing he had to do was to carve a sword formation on the jade. Luo Yan had set up the base of the Zyokainai sword formation several times. Naturally, he was familiar with it. Luo Yan took out a special knife and carefully carved some twisted lines on the smelted jade. With a simulation comparison of the chip, as long as the spiritual power in his hand was stable, there would be almost no mistakes. The lines carved on the base of the formation are very similar to runes. However, the difference from runes is that runes are more like complex fonts. The lines carved on the base of the formation are more like pictures. What they have in common is that they must be passed in one stroke without any pause in the middle. Once the lines are broken, the spiritual power conduction will have problems. This piece of jade will be useless. Chapter 75. The main function of the optimized patterns of the Zyokainai sword formation is to communicate the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Luo Yan was fully immersed in the work of carving the sword formation, and the jade on the table was carved one after another. As the Zyokainai sword formation was gradually completed, even without the spiritual stone to supply spiritual power, the jade on the table still shone with the golden light. It spread from the table and covered Luo Yan. It was stained with a layer of dazzling brilliance. Luo Yan arranged these carved jades in a certain order. At the moment when the golden light covered his body, he evenly transmitted spiritual power to the 27 jades in his hands. In the void, bursts of sword sounds suddenly emerged, and the sword shadows in the sky slowly took shape. Seeing this, Luo Yan withdrew his spiritual power and felt slightly satisfied. Sure enough, this method is feasible. And it can be activated anytime and anywhere without spiritual stones. It is much more convenient than before. Luo Yan turned the jade over again, and he changed to a smaller carving knife this time. Next, he was going to carve the 11 runes on the back of the jade. Because it was his first time to touch the runes, he became much more cautious. Luo Yan first used the chip to simulate it, and then used the ink pen to blacken the approximate area where the runes needed to be carved. Then, with the convenience of the chip, the spiritual power in his body flowed into the carving knife. It was like a flying dragon and snake. In one go. Slowly, the jade that was carved with both runes and arrays had a little starlight gathering around it, and then turned into golden light. It looked very beautiful. It was like a gushing rain of light, pouring out and hitting Luo Yan. Luo Yan picked up the jade and used his spiritual sense to sense it. The array pattern inside was found to be very smooth. The dual carving of the array pattern and runes did not affect the original function of the two. The two occupied the front and back of the jade respectively, without interfering with each other, and the original function was not affected at all. Luo Yan continued to do the same. Runes were also carved on the back of other jades one by one. The jades piled on the stone table all emitted a kind of bright light, like starlight, with a little gold. The whole yard was illuminated. As it was getting dark, Luo Yan finally finished processing all the 27 pieces of jade. He also carefully hollowed out the middle of the jade with a carving knife, leaving a hole 2 to 3 fingers wide. Then he broke the sword bamboo and made a rectangular box. This box has 3 layers, 9 grids on each layer, and both ends are open. Luo Yan put the hollowed out 27 pieces of jade into the grids and fixed them. A simple sword box was completed. At first glance, it looks a bit like a honeycomb cave. But is ventilated at both ends without any obstruction. It is more like a hollow bamboo tube. Luo Yan used his spiritual power to float the sword box in the air, then took out a Qingguang sword and turned it into the size of 2 fingers. Inserted it into one of the grids in the sword box. After doing this, he took a deep breath, and the spiritual power was immediately dispersed into 27 even strands, heading towards the jade. The sword box that absorbed Luo Yan's spiritual power slowly constructed a star map above the courtyard. Dense lines spread, and the sword energy began to surge, like a galaxy hanging upside down, covering the entire yard. Among them, a green sword light was particularly conspicuous. Like a falling meteor, or like moonlight hanging down, it came in an instant, with a majestic and sharp breath. It gave people a sense of psychedelic beauty, but was full of murderous intent. Perhaps because of the spread of the sword energy of the Xiaoqianai sword formation, Yang Zhao, who was originally sleeping soundly in the bedroom, suddenly shook his body, as if he had been electrocuted, and sat up straight. His skin was trembling all over. "What's going on? I feel like a disaster is coming." When he accidentally glanced at the windowsill, he saw the sword shadows all over the sky above the yard, and he shuddered with fear. He thought that Brother Luo wanted to punish him harshly because he saw that he was not doing his job well, so he hurriedly said, "Brother Luo, stop it, I know I was wrong. Although I slept in your bed, it is not a crime punishable by death. I will find a way to return the spiritual stone to you as soon as possible. Brother Luo, please forgive me this time." Yang Zhao was almost scared to death by the thin figure sitting in the yard. He slept for a while, and when he woke up, he saw such a horrible scene. There was no way he could sleep, and his soul was almost scared to death. Yang Zhao thought that Luo Yan wanted to kill him, and his whole life was gloomy. He didn't mean to mess things up, it was all the fault of the white-bearded old man. For a moment, Yang Zhao's face was pale, his expression was terrified, and he huddled up. Luo Yan glanced back at him with a blank look in his eyes. He didn't know what Yang Zhao was crazy about. He just woke up and got up and yelled. But Luo Yan still took back the spiritual power in the sword box. Fighting is prohibited on Muling Peak. If he wants to test the power of the sword box, he has to go outside. If the power of the Xiaoqianai sword formation is allowed to spread, it may alarm more people. The assembly of the sword box is considered to be initially completed, and the power makes Luo Yan satisfied. Compared with the real Xiaoqianai sword formation, it is almost the same. The difference between the two is that the complete sword formation requires more than 100 spiritual stones to activate once. The sword formation in the box can adjust the power according to the amount of spiritual power of the user. The upper limit is almost unchanged, but the lower limit has become much more flexible. However, the only thing that makes Luo Yan feel a little regretful is that this sword box can only be activated by its own spiritual power in the future. Because it is the first time to design this thing, there is not enough space left to place the grooves for the spiritual stones. As a result, this simplified version of the sword box will not be driven by spiritual stones. However, after this experience, it will be much easier to adjust it in the future. The next step is to find the essence of black iron that can be put into the sword box. Luo Yan does not plan to use magic tools, the cost is too high. All you need to do is find those ores that can absorb spiritual power and are extremely hard, and extract the essence of black iron from them, so as to create some black iron essence with a width of 2 fingers. If a top-grade magic weapon as big as the King Guang sword is used only to set up a sword formation, it would be a waste of resources. So you have to find a substitute. It seems that I have to go to the refining hall again. Luo Yan thought to himself. However, this day's effort was not in vain. The optimization problem of the Xiaoqianai sword formation was finally completed. With the sword box, Luo Yan can input his own spiritual energy into it to achieve the purpose of setting up the formation instantly. You can also adjust the power of the sword formation according to the strength of the opponent. Not only does it save spiritual stones, but it also increases your means of attack. If he transfers all his spiritual power into it, plus the special black iron essence stimulated by the sword formation, the power is simply unimaginable. Ordinary cultivators in the late stage of key refining are afraid that they can't withstand his attack at all. This is the horror of the sword formation. So far, Luo Yan finally has a way to pose a fatal threat to the enemy. Thinking of this, a smile subconsciously appeared on his pretty face. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.